And we are live. Welcome in, folks, to the Pegasus Actual Podcast. And oh my gosh, we are excited tonight because we are talking about Razor. And it is going to be like really awesome and fun. And we have ourselves a special guest. And we got a good special guest for this one, you guys. So I am like, super happy about this. And there's no better person to have on to talk about Razor when he's a BSG fan. He's worked in the industry. He understands the ins and outs, and he can give a really unique perspective. And of course, usually we're talking about Script Doctor with that, but no, we have Cameron Pasha with us. We're going to bring him in a second, but as always, I've got the lovely Jane Theory and Nerd Cookies with me. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hey.
And we've got the Script Doctor himself. And I see our friends in chat, Parrothead, Time Prophet, Lady Mist. Great to see you guys. And we are going to bring in our special guest. And welcome to the Pegasus Actual Podcast, Cameron Pasha. Great to have you aboard. Sir, your reputation precedes you. It's awesome to have you on.
Well, I'm honored to be on. And I was saying before we came on live that, I'm a huge fan of Battlestar Galactica. I had the great honor of actually being on a panel with Ron Moore, some years back. And I was trying to be like a professional panelist with him as a screenwriter when I'm like trying not to like be like, oh my God, I'm such in awe of you. What a great writer you are. And so I'm just excited here to join this and talk about Razor, which is really an incredible film.
Yeah, just initial thoughts on it. I thought, it's funny when you have usually from watching something, especially when it jumps back and forth through different periods of time, because there are present time sequences in here, and then there are obviously flashbacks. Mm-hmm. As far as the timeline, when you're watching BSG itself, this fits in anywhere from the period after the Captain's Hand, where Lee took command of the Pegasus, to just about the season 2 finale when they were going to go on the big mission. So anywhere in that general time frame is kind of where the events of Razor would fit in, where that would happen. But it's funny. It's listed on Peacock for some reason at the end of season 3, which I have no idea why, other than, they just didn't know where to stick it. But chronologically, if you're watching BSG, this is where it is. But this particular movie, as it jumps between, present time and the flashbacks that happen in it, it does it well, because usually that is something that I think some productions struggle with, whether it be a movie, a television show, even an episode of a TV show. That can really, if they don't get those, flashbacks to present day and then back to the past correct, that can really throw something off. And I felt that this movie, did well with it.
Yeah, and I think our friend Script Doctor would perhaps agree. I don't want to speak for him because I'm speaking for him, but certainly from my point of view, it is one of the most challenging things in writing is to use flashbacks, right? Because they can become a trope. I think bad writing is often, you'll often have people just use that because they're not able to find a way in the linear story to tell their point. The reason it's effective in Razor, and it's because it's used from multiple characters' point of view, right? Multiple people, we see their past, and it's all tied in. And the reason it's tied in is that they use the flashbacks whenever there's an important thematic lesson, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what's linked to, is whenever there's something that actually allows us to go deeper into the theme of what they're trying to express in that particular moment. They use the flashback for that. So it's not just information about the past that's coming in. It's actually something that helps us understand the present moral conundrum that the character's facing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially here, the flashbacks inform the character, and I would say that the greatest dichotomy is between Admiral Adama's flashback when he's a pilot as Husker, and Admiral Kane's flashback when she's like a 12-year-old girl trying to escape the Cylons, and you see how they approach the situations of survival and sacrifice. Now, of course, like flashbacks can be a crutch, and you can see shows like the latter seasons of Lost when they do their side flashbacks and whatnot, and how that kind of unraveled what they were trying to supposedly go for that season.
Now, one would argue that
but here,
plan, and so the flashbacks don't help.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going back and forth in time, hoping nobody notices.
Right. Exactly. But here they use it to, the moral conundrum, inform the character, and also at the same time, they make them mini stories, so they're not just an exposition dump. There's actually some sort of character arc that's happening with each one, and I can't wait till we get into that later. The only thing that kind of bothered me was the flashback within a flashback, which was kind of like threw me off a little bit, where it's the new XO character. Mm-hmm. She goes to a flashback when she's talking to Admiral Kane, and then Admiral Kane goes to a flashback when she's a kid, and you're like, okay, now we're kind of going into Inception territory here.
Right. but thankfully that was multiple flashbacks into the show by that time, so you had gotten
exactly.
Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And also hilarious. On top of that, what really allowed those flashbacks to sort of not deter from the story is that they have that main mission objective for the episode, which is rescue the lost science crew. And that's the thing that's simple that you don't forget, because it's not convoluted or anything of that nature. It's just, we got to go back here. And then it just, every step of the way that they get closer to finding these people, we're discovering something new about the threat and what took the scientific crew away. And it's done so in such a good, steady pace that it's not an information dump, like a front-loaded information dump, and it's not a mystery box that has no satisfying ending. So, I mean, it's very simple screenwriting 101, simple story, complex characters, keep everything all focused on what the objective is for each character, for each act as you go, and don't lose sight of your target. So basically, the whole writing team of this of Razor knew how to aim, which is kind of a nice thing to have as a skill for writers. You know how to aim.
And I would suggest that the writers on Battlestar Galactica across the board over the years that it was on were some of the greatest writers of our industry. I mean,
they
is one of the best.
The last, between 1980 and 2010, they were like the top of the game. Ronald D, Michael Piller, all those guys. They just knew it.
Yeah, and I worked with Michael Angeli, who was on the show. Michael and I worked when I was on my very first show when I was a staff writer on Twilight Zone. He was one of my bosses. So and Ira Stephen Bear had worked with Ronald Moore in the past. He was one of my bosses. So it's a very tight circle of great writers there.
See, you're lucky you got into the sci-fi thing. I was on like the Burn Notice side of things with Matt Nix and all them guys. Like, it's still fun. Just like an assistant and walk on there and stuff like that. So nothing huge, but like, always like outside of sci-fi, just desperately trying to get back to it. It's like, no, spy drama. Okay, cool.
This particular feature was written by Michael Taylor. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if either of you guys have worked with Michael Taylor before, but Michael Taylor wrote it.
I've never.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding. It's such a great thing. And for those who are tuning in, I had said this before we went on live. Big fan as I am of Battlestar Galactica, I'd actually never watched Razor. And so I watched Razor today for the first time, and it gave me the feelings that I felt watching the original miniseries on Battlestar Galactica when it was on Sci-Fi, and they didn't even know that they were going to have a show yet. They just put that miniseries on there, and that the same kind of emotional roller coaster and emotional addiction that I had to the characters, I felt like I was going back to when I saw the miniseries. I'm like, oh my God, they got to make a show out of this. And you're like, I wish that there could have been a Razor show, right? Because these characters are so interesting.
Yeah, particularly, I really, really, really enjoyed the. I really enjoyed sort of the journey of Kendra Shaw. Her story was oh God, I can't remember the actress too. Her name's Stephanie, and I can't her name. Yeah, but she is she did a good job with the character. And usually that's a challenge when you have a character that is just a one time that you're going to use, that is going to, be introduced and then be killed in the same episode or in the same feature. It's kind of hard to really, make the character matter. That's a big challenge for anyone. And I feel like they really did a great job making her matter, making her very interesting.
Yeah.
Because, she was a character we hadn't seen in the episodes before, in the actual 3-episode arc of Pegasus.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought Kendra was a really cool introduction in sort of nice way to bridge everything. I don't know how you guys felt about that. Roof Korean 92. Thank you, sir. Stephanie Jacobson. Yes. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Yeah. Roof Korean's always clutch in this chat. And speaking of the chat, just want to welcome Parrothead, Side Prophet. Lady Mist is modding for everybody, and she's being awesome. Deviant Porg. Wow, we've got a full house. Speaker for the Dead. Great to see you, buddy. Random Brad was in here, but I know he can't stick around. Darn it. But yeah, thank you so much. And Roof Korean, yeah, that was clutch, bro. So the script doctor, do you want to lead us off, or do you want me to go ahead and do my thing here?
Do your thing just to keep it on brand with the show, and then we'll, I guess, go back around the panel for the sections that we want to cover, right?
All right. So essentially, we start out with it was kind of recapish. This is more the way this starts out is less like a movie and more like an extended episode. So you get the usual Battlestar fare at the beginning. You get your recap and things like that. And it kind of it's a special recap because it's kind of just showing the events of the various Pegasus commanders dying. And then, of course, Lee getting command. So we get that flashback of the scene where he's being handed the commander's pips by his father. And then when we get into the start of the feature properly, we've got Starbuck and Lee, and they're just sitting there BSing, tiny bit of small talk, and they're at an official event. President Roslin is introducing Lee as formally as the Pegasus commander. So Lee takes the podium, and he's starting to go into a speech, and he's just kind of talking about how he's gonna take over the ship and whatnot. And meanwhile, we see the knife that we had a sort of shot of a knife in the beginning of this, and in the galley, I guess, in the kitchen where Kendra works now. She'd been just sitting there throwing the knife at the wall, and she walks over, kind of leans in, listens to the speaker more, and sort of looks back to we go back to Starbuck and Lee as she's watching. He said he's going to restore the honor and dignity of the Pegasus and whatnot. And for now, Lee has already named Kara as the CAG. So it didn't last long that she was going to stay on Galactica, so she did end up the CAG of the Pegasus. Go figure. So we flash back to the kitchen. Kendra turns off Lee's speech as he's just going on saying he's going to make additional officer assignments, and she sort of walks over to one of the other guys on the kitchen duty and says, well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. and she waits until everybody leaves, and she walks over and she has like this can, and she opens it up, pulls out syringe, and injects herself. So it looks like she's on I don't know, heroin, speed. I don't know, space. What is it? Space heroin, guys? I don't know.
It's something to take the edge off.
Yeah.
It gives her memories of the past.
Yeah. So as we get our first flashback here as she's sort of starting to catch a buzz, as she's having a flashback of going back to. And you guys can remember this from the Pegasus episodes, where they were talking about that ship, the Scylla, and this is the flashback that she's having. She sees the dead civilians on the Scylla's deck, and the guy that later became the Pegasus deck chief, Laird, is seen looking on, and then. I will stop there because then we get into a different sequence. But what do you guys think of that so far?
Well, I mean, it was the right way in. I mean, if you don't really know much about the show, you could actually watch the opening sequence into Pegasus and have a sense of what what Battlestar Galactica is about, right? And who these characters. I mean, it was I think really well paced, and so that you get to know these people. And then now you've got the setup that you need to take them on their journey, because a lot of these people are going to end up dead in surprising ways, and you start off, I think, in the right way when everything's normal to get them there.
Yeah. Hey, Bear Nerd Fun, welcome in, sir.
Hey, how you doing? My internet here at home went all kinds of wonky, so I am using a hotspot from my phone, and it seems to be connected pretty good.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you've met our guest Cameron yet. So Cameron,
no, I have not.
Meet Bear, and Bear meet Cameron, and
nice to meet you, Cameron.
Yeah,
pleasure. I like your backdrop. I like it. It's kind of cool and visual.
Oh,
yeah,
that's one of the thumbnails from the late edition.
Yeah,
thank you.
But
I made that myself.
Oh yeah, Bear's a creative dude.
There's probably like, I don't know, over 50 layers in that.
But yeah, Bear, we were just kind of getting into we were just going through Act 1, and so
have you got to this scene where she runs across the tech?
What do you mean?
No, we're right at the tech, the beginning.
Very beginning.
This sort of opening sequence when we first see Kane and what's happening. Yeah.
All right. I noticed something. Let me know when you get to that tech scene. I noticed something that was interesting.
Okay. But yeah, I thought this was a good beginning sequence as well, and so then it kind of she gets out of the flashback, and you can see Kendra going to somebody's quarters, and it turns out that it's the commander's quarters. She walks in and reports to Lee, and he offers her a seat, but she decides to stand, and Lee says,
well, you're missing an interesting part, which is the fact that Starbuck and Kendra have already gone a little bit, have kind of like butted heads already by this point. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing a character dynamic between the two, of how these two are both in their own right very loyal to their commanding officers.
There was like that little bit of body language.
Remember, Kendra's coming out of Lee's office, and that's where they kind of do the exchange. Sorry, I'm lagging.
Yeah. No, it's all good. But no, when she's sitting there and she reports to him, I found it interesting when he commented on, he's talking about Kendra's reviews and whatnot, and he mentions that Kane casts a big shadow even in death. And I thought that was pretty cool. He kind of gave that acknowledgement to Kane, even though he didn't agree with her.
Well, what I liked is he said, "I don't actually respect her." That's a big thing to say for someone that obviously the person you're talking to does respect her. She says over and over again, "I'm essentially what Kane created, right? She saved my life. She saved all these people's lives." And Lee's just straightforward saying, "I don't respect her because she's a psychopath," right? And that's not exactly false. So.
Yeah, and
from what we know, having gotten this far into the episode, we understand that Kane was more lucky with regards to how she saved those people's lives, as opposed to being someone compassionate and strategic, like a proper military commander. So, like, I like the dichotomy here, where the new commander's like, "Listen, I don't like Kane. I don't agree with her philosophies. I don't think they worked well for the ship, and there's plenty of evidence to support that. But there's more of them that liked her than there is of me. So we got to reconcile this, and that's why you're here.
You can't lead a ship of people that hate you. So it's a very strategic decision to have someone who's seen as her protege be his right hand.
Right, and and he kind of grilled her on her reviews. Because he said, Kane thinks highly of you, but Fisk and Garner, he's like, you wound up on kitchen duty. He's like, so who are you exactly? And so then we get into the big flashback, and you get a really.
She was Kane's little project.
Yeah, exactly.
And she was kind of like that with that relationship with Starbuck as well. So. And Starbuck just has that kind of contentious relationship with anyone that's kind of similar in personality with her. So we're seeing a lot of that similarities in their relationship. And
well, one thing that and we'll get to it, I guess, when we get to that major reveal about her sister. She has this younger sister that we discover in the flashback, and in many ways, once you see the entire show and you look back on it, Kane's relationship with Kendra is in many ways trying to almost like, if I can mold you into me, then maybe I can be forgiven for what happened with my sister, right? I have a younger sister now, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's brilliant subtext. You don't really realize it until you understand the whole show and the story of these people, right?
Right. It's almost like, that's a good point, Cameron, because it's almost like she's, I guess, subconsciously doing a redemption through projection, and I can see that.
Another thing too is it demonstrates once again.
Well, she figures if he can shepherd and replace her sister, she won't be the coward that she was. Oh, I'm sorry, Jane. Go ahead.
Please, Jane.
Okay.
he's like,
No, I was just saying, we get on display here.
No, go ahead. I'm the one lagging here.
We get to see more of who Lee is as a leader and the decisions that he makes, which you said before, if you aren't familiar with the show, you don't really have to be to enjoy this film. And one of the things that I liked about it was that just in this scenario, it really sums up this particular character really well. And I think it lays the foundation for what we'll see going forward with him.
And we talked about the moral thing that was brought up earlier. I think maybe Nerd Cookies brought it up about, or when we were talking about how the issue of, her being lucky. And when we'll get to it, the finale and the moral choices that Lee has to make, are exactly that, is ultimately by his father actually belays him and makes the moral choice for him, and it ends up being the right choice because essentially Lee has become her and is going to do what is practical, right? And that's not the right thing.
Yeah, Lee goes pragmatic. He goes super pragmatic. and which was a very cool twist, by the way. I really like it.
And it also makes sense because he's always in his father's shadow. That's one of the essential themes of the entire series, right? And and he's not necessarily ready for command. And one would think that, maybe had Kane not lost her family, she might have become a different kind of leader, right? Because you have a father that can guide him to a morally right place. She lost all that.
She had no moral centers in her life.
Yeah.
That had that moral center and knew what it was, and when it was happening, could say like, "Whoa, okay,
yeah,
stop, can't do that," and she didn't have that.
Yeah. And you still like her though. That's the amazing thing is she's a total dangerous psychopath, right? And I never disliked her, even when she's doing these terrible things, because you understand her. She's under Yeah, she's in a horrible
Love
situation.
hate. Love hate for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and see, here's the thing, though. That this is what you like expect from Michelle Forbes, because my God, man, Michelle Forbes just commands a room. I liked Michelle Forbes. My first experience seeing her was obviously, like a lot of people, was as Ensign Ro on TNG.
Sure.
And then, man, just like when you see her in this, it's just like, wow. Like, I mean, how far she progressed, and just the presence that she has as an actress now, it's like, God.
Well, it's as I was watching the show again, there's a project I'm working on that's sort of a historical epic set in the Ottoman Empire, and I was thinking of, my God, Michelle Forbes is perfect for the role of the Queen Mother, who's like this icy, dangerous woman who's sort of the power behind the throne. I was like, I gotta talk to my producers about reaching out to her agents. I was like, she's perfect.
Right, exactly. But she
should be available if the rumors of Treadstone are true.
Yeah. My goodness, Cameron. She brought so many layers to Kane, and that's the best kind of character as an antagonist. Because they're like almost an unintentional antagonist. Like you can see that if had things gone different in their life, that they might be, a heroine as opposed to an antagonist.
Yeah, and this movie because we saw her first. I mean, I had not seen Razor, but I had seen her in the original introduction of Pegasus, and I loved her character. But that's a hard ass, intense character, and you don't see the softness there until Razor. And here, you see the deep relationship she had with her XO, who she kills, right? And then the fact that she was in love with a woman that turned out to be a Cylon, right? These are these profound things that were put into this show that make you realize, man, this is a human being that things just never go right for her, and that it hardens her.
Oh yeah, because essentially for them, when the Cylons attacked, they had their version of Pearl Harbor, because they were in they were in dry dock, and they were stuck there, and that situation just like immediately, like after the tragic events of all that, it really hardened her up. But because that was the first thing. But yeah, we speaking of that, we see the Pegasus docked in the Scorpion Fleet shipyards. Man, there's a beautiful some beautiful shots of the Pegasus in there, and God, that's one thing I loved about BSG was the cinematography. It always made the ships interesting. It made everything like really awesome, and they had a great visual effects guy, because they had the guy that they had for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They had Gary Hutzel. Man, Gary Hutzel is oh God, dude, he's so good. But yeah, we see that in the Raptor, Kendra is like sitting there waiting as the Raptor docks, and then the Raptor's entering the flight bay. And then it cuts to Admiral Kane's quarters. She's on treadmill. She's looking over the new ship schematics and maintenance reports, and she gets a buzz on her door, and her XO comes in, and the XO comments on her, reading the stuff that reading the reports and whatnot, and he said, what's she doing on shore leave? And well, she hasn't made any plans. She's considering going home to Toron. And then her XO is obviously, they're friends. He says, why don't you come to Gemini for a weekend and And the admiral replies, well, we got a lot of repairs and don't want to leave Pegasus while the network's down and so on and so forth. And, he said, well, you've been going nonstop for more than a year. And as your XO, I'm telling you, hey, it's okay to get off the treadmill once in a while. And, she basically says she'll think about it, nods and leaves. And she waits for him to walk out, and then she starts running on the treadmill. And then we go back to the Pegasus flight deck, and that's where we see, enter Kendra. We see her, get down from the Raptor, and she's just typical wide-eyed first reporting to a new vessel. She's looking around and asking for directions, and she's basically getting ignored by everybody. And the person that actually hears her is the Cylon.
Yeah.
And this is as Kendra's going through sees her in the corridor over there. Gina says, Gina is her name, by the way. We find that out.
Gina Inveri.
Yeah.
Also,
before his identity in this form, yeah.
Before you get too far, there is one thing that I hadn't noticed before. Inveri is old Geminese for resurrection.
That's right. They said that. Yeah.
Nice.
And I didn't catch that. And I've watched this like probably 3 times. I didn't catch it until earlier today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know
found that very. It's like they hide out in the open.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I really like this interchange here. It's really well done. Because on paper, I don't like flashbacks per se, like when it's done, like y'all were talking about earlier. But again, like scenes like this is so well done because it's not filled with like member berries. It's not like, oh, remember this or something. It's new information. We're learning new facets about this person, and it's relevant to what's happening in this story. So it's not filled with those moments. Remember this person from where we saw her before. No, it's just you're immersed in this story as it is right now, and we're learning new things and we're learning new facets to make it more complete. Which this whole episode does.
It's just funny, like the first person that like welcomes her on board is the Cylon.
Yeah, it was rather ironic, I thought.
And so then,
well, it's dramatic irony, and that's like the best thing that hooks an audience, right? Is that when the audience knows something,
it's something that Tom would love,
but what they know does not spoil the enjoyment of the story.
Right, exactly. Jane, what did you think of the irony of that?
Oh, we lost. Did we lose her?
Oh, yeah, we lost her.
It looks like power went out in her area.
Oh no.
Oh, by the way, while we're waiting for Jane, I actually did a little bit. I looked something up because I was so intrigued by that reference about resurrection being Geminese. It is, but it's actually a human in Earth word. It's from Romanian. Inver is resurrection in Romanian. So that's really smart screenwriting. The idea that these languages were then translated to Earth, many millions of years ago and became part of our cultures.
Isn't Transylvania in Romania?
Transylvania is in Romania, which I visited. I love the
Resurrection, Dracula, all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's good catch, man. That's fascinating.
It's an interesting thing.
I mean, Vlad the Impaler and the legend behind him, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did a whole Vlad the Impaler tour all over Romania. I went to every one of his major sites, all of his old castles. It was quite interesting.
Oh, nice.
That's another cast. That's another.
That newest Dracula movie that told the Dracula story. I thought that was very interesting.
The one that tells a backstory when he's fighting the Turks. Yeah.
I that's like I wanted another one. It's like, all right, you made the one, make another.
I think their intent
was
to make another one, but I don't think it made enough money for them the first one.
Oh man, it was a great story.
I enjoyed it. So going back to Razor, yes.
Yeah. So we get Kendra as she's walking into the CIC, and she reports to Kane. I was kind of like sort of confused. Is like
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kane has this dude as their XO, but then Fisk was what was Fisk? Was Fisk like an assistant XO?
He was just like another dude on the bridge, right? I don't think he was some kind of
bridge chief. Be the second officer, I think. Yeah, bridge chief, second officer. They go numerical, I think, up to 4, and then it gets into like just general rankings. At least in the Navy, that's my understanding.
Yeah, because I didn't know what was going on. But anyways, like with Fisk, because I was confused because I was so used to him, being like already a colonel. I don't know if he was already, I figure he's probably a colonel at that point too. But yeah, I didn't know if he was just an assistant XO or what the deal was. But anyway, yeah, Kane kind of gives Kendra a little bit of shit for taking a while to get to the CIC, and she lets Kendra know that she's on board thanks to her mother's influence in an effort to build Kendra's career. And then Kendra kind of counters with, "Well, my mom died of cancer." And Kane says, "Well, don't try to get sympathy for me again."
Yeah, well, that was a great way to establish how hard-ass she is, and that she has no.
Yeah, that scene it irritated me because obviously her mom, from what I could tell, has already been long dead. Yeah, and that position that she was in, her mom didn't have anything to do with her getting that position, and I thought Kane was an ass over that.
Yeah, it was a little bit asshole-ish, but
that's kind of made it a great scene.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how long that she was. There's some kind of reference to I read.
But also remember what happens at the end of that.
Yeah. So yeah, Kane orders Hoshi to show Kendra to her quarters and dismisses her, and then she waits until Kendra's half of there, and then looks TXO, and they laugh, and she said, "Well, I'll be in my quarters," and then Kane takes off, and as they're walking, Hoshi's explaining to Kendra that with the network and passcodes, anybody can control any part of the ship from somewhere else, which is like having unlimited backups. And he then tells her that the network is down right now. And they share a joke about, hey, what could go wrong with this?
Never asked that.
Then suddenly there's an explosion.
That's like, ooh, poke the bear. He won't bite me.
Then the corridor, goes up. And then the next thing you see is Kendra comes to, and she finds herself on the ground, and Hoshi's unconscious. Yeah, she's still like foggy. You kind of wonder at this point if she's concussed or what's going on. And Kane walks up and asks if she's okay. And Kendra is like still in a daze. She's bleeding. She's bleeding from she's got a pretty good sized gash on her head. Mm-hmm. And then Kane just hauls off and BAM! Slaps her to.
She didn't slap her. She backhand her.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I can understand a slap, that someone's dazed and all that. It's an emergency. I thought the backhand was just a hair much.
Well, that's
but in keeping with her character.
That's the emphasis of the character, is that she is that person. I mean, she goes beyond what is necessary because she has so much pain and anger inside of her. That's her default.
Yep. And then
she's also overcompensating for that one time she failed too. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yep. And then Kane helps her up and gets Hoshi up, orders Kendra to get to the CIC, and then we cut to the outside and we see the Cylons are going apeshit, launching nukes on the shipyards and everything, and everything is like exploding all around them. And in the CIC, Fisk is there unconscious. The Exo's getting the damage reports together. Kane walks in and wants to sit rep. And Exo explains that they've been hit by several nukes. And Kane figures that the Cylons have broken the armistice and launched an all-out attack. The XO reports Dratus is erratic while weapons and computers are offline, and they'll have to do everything manually. And Kane ponders for a minute, and then we cut back to outside. You see some cool shots of the raiders. Man, I really love this shot of the raid on the shipyards because.
Hey, Drew, did you notice that when the nukes hit, they were literally penetrating the ships? And we've seen Galactica get hit with a few nukes, and not much really happened other than concussion and everything shaking. And man, those newer ships must not have been built as good as the Galactica.
Well, no, they were streamlined, Bear. As they went forward in technology, they streamlined the ships. It's similar to the modern Navy.
Right.
Your Arleigh Burke cruisers are not built like battleships. Those old battleships, Iowa-class battleships, are still probably can take more of a pounding than any Arleigh Burke cruiser could take.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
Didn't they use one in the movie?
I'm sorry?
Didn't they use one in the movie where aliens were attacking or something?
You mean Battleship?
Yeah.
Was that Battleship? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Battleship, yeah.
That was awesome. I like that scene.
Well, I like Battleship.
Yeah, I did too. But
I always get reminded of Battlestar Galactica when I'm watching that, and then when I'm watching this, I think of that battleship scene.
But see that proves it. It's like I said, you can go forward in technology and you streamline your stuff, but the stuff's not built really stern the way it was back in the olden days. And like I said, those Iowa-class ships could take a pounding. You think of the Galactica like an Iowa-class battleship. That thing could take a pounding. These, they get hit in the right spots, they're done.
Well, and you see that there's actually a very profound realization about human nature and civilization, that the more advanced we think we get, the more sloppy we get. I mean, Roman architecture still holds up. Roman bridges in Europe, I was in Jerusalem. There's old roads in old Jerusalem that they've uncovered that are better paved than modern roads, that are Roman roads, right? And so they still hold up. And just in our personal lives, Microsoft Word 1 is better than Microsoft Word 10. It's not getting better. These things aren't getting better with each new. They're getting
Office
worse.
2003 is better than 2012. But that also comes down to the contract. It comes down to contract bidding as well. So, like, a lot of these things are built from the government, and they say who can do it the cheapest and hit the specs we need. And there's corners being cut in those regards, and that as a result, they get the product they want, but they don't get as much longevity out of it. It doesn't. It usually requires lots of maintenance, which costs more money. So you end up paying more over the long term when you could have just shelled out that extra a few $100 million at the beginning and also had something far more durable and less complicated and less high maintenance.
Hey, Script Doctor, isn't Office 2003 just an update of 2002? Because I had Office 2002,
probably,
and it was good. It worked good.
Well, basically, getting back to this super quick, like we see the more shots of the Raiders hitting it, and then Kane says, "All right, get the moorings off and let's get out of dock." And we see the Pegasus kind of start to break away, and she turns around and orders Kendra, get their FTL up and going, and there's a raider that comes in. It's launching more nukes toward the Pegasus. Exo said, well, we've got 2 nukes closing in. And Kendra Shaw reports that the FTL is spooling, but without the computer, no jump can be calculated. Mm-hmm. Kane orders her to just jump it without a calculation. Yeah, and she said, are you sure about that? We could end up jumping into a sun. And Exo said, hey, missiles are closing in. They're getting closer, and Kane said, "Hey, look, it doesn't matter where we go." And then the XO gives him the 5-second count, and Kane said, "Just do it, Lieutenant." And Kendra initiates a jump just before nukes hit the Pegasus.
Yeah, and she's not wrong, because they're about to get hit by nukes, right? And we've understood that they're not going to survive a nuke attack, not this design of the ship. And so, the odds of dying are pretty high at this point, so you might as well jump. And if you end up in the middle of a sun, well, you're dead, right? You get hit by a nuke, you're dead. But there's a chance, right?
Yeah.
You got to try it.
Did you notice?
And the odds of hitting a sun or another planet are incredibly low in the vastness of space. So yeah, she's playing the odds. And the entire context of the scene is great, setup and suspense and payoff and stakes. Like, it has it all there. We have the ticking clock. Okay, 2 nukes are on their approach. And, Admiral Kane's like, okay, we got to jump because I know what's going to happen if those nukes hit. I don't know what's going to happen if we jump. So I'm going to take the lesser of the two, bad decisions, and then orders her way in there. And then you have the officers trying to maintain protocol saying, are you sure you want to jump without, a plot path? And she's trying to remind them, like, we don't have time for that luxury right now. and
it's either
it's a nice little way to
or
really
jump.
Condense. Yeah, and it's condensing suspense and adrenaline and urgency all into a very narrow time frame just to get us to the next point, but also show a little bit of character and determination, like that Kane is willing to make a risk of her entire crew if she thinks it'll have a better, regardless of whether or not they're going to be able to come back to the fight or not. She's like, we'd rather get away to come back to fight than not have a chance at all. And that goes to her character, and we see a little bit of that origin as we go further on into the story.
Yeah. Now, hold on. Basically, that blind jump, when they did jump, did you guys happen to notice all the surrounding explosions and flame? When they jumped, all that flame got sucked in with them when they jumped.
No, I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was kind of a cool, neat effect. I don't know if they intended for that to happen, but looked pretty cool.
One of the things that I've always been intrigued by.
Hold on, not done.
I'm sorry.
Basically, and their dilemma was either get 2 nukes or make a blind jump and maybe get a sun, maybe get into a void somewhere.
2 nukes makes me think of 2 scoops, like Raisin Bran. Get 2 nukes. Start your day with 2 nukes, folks. Welcome on into Culture Casino, our esteemed buddy. Glad to have him. Even though he's fashionably late.
I was tardy. I'm sorry.
But I don't know.
That's okay. I'm actually curious to hear what Cameron has to say with that follow up. So
yeah, I don't know if you've met Cameron yet, but Culture, meet Cameron. Cameron, meet Culture.
Pleasure.
All right.
You bet. You bet. I'm a huge fan.
Well, thank you. And the only point I was raising was I'm always curious about the unique thing about the jumps in Battlestar Galactica is you never see them. You never see what happens inside the ship, because even in the miniseries, I remember that so people brace themselves because it's not a pleasant jump, but you never actually see. That's one of the great things. They never actually show you what it's like inside the ship when a jump happens. Is it instantaneous? Is there a process?
Yeah, it seemed like in the miniseries you were just describing it, when Callie was sitting down on the crate right before the jump, that the room kind of stretched out, and then like the camera did they did a soft focus on her, and it just kind of haloed out like it was expanding. It's the weirdest thing, but you're right. You never actually see the actual process of the jump. It just everybody doesn't. Well, all of them did not like it. It wasn't fun. It was not a fun experience. So, but yeah, I think that would have been cool to see. Maybe we'll get it in the next series. We'll see, but that was neat. I mean,
especially if they're not ready for it.
Yeah. Gosh, could you imagine that? Just like 15,000 people all of a sudden just be like, a jump happens and you're like off your feet.
All of a sudden, you got 15,000 people puking.
You're
being pulled into wormholes. There's stuff happening to your atoms that you don't understand, right?
Yeah.
There's quantum improbabilities that happen. A good friend of mine wrote the horror movie Event Horizon. Philip
Oh,
Wow.
dude, yeah, I love that
Philip was a
movie.
good friend of mine.
Movie.
And that movie, is all about the first hyperspace jump that goes terribly wrong because you essentially jump to hell when you break the laws of science, and you come back from this hell dimension with a haunted ship, and that's such a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it is. It is. And yeah, exactly. I mean, you've no idea what you're going to come back with. I mean, if we follow along with string theory or interdimensional travel, it's that you don't know what's going to happen. The first people to do that are going to figure it out fast, though, aren't they?
Yeah. Nerd cookies, are you ready for a jump?
No. I'm never ready. I'd probably puke right after. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I don't know what would happen. That's very interesting, man. Cameron, getting you on the show was brilliant, my friend.
Well, I'm delighted and honored to be on here. Hopefully I'll be running some big TV show and I just won't have time to do any of this stuff anymore. But for now, I'm here, I'm available, and I love it. So good.
I hear you.
Yeah. So,
well, the other part that's also fascinating with the special effects of the jump is the fact that it's more like a teleportation as opposed to a propulsion. It's just you got the light that kind of just makes them vanish, and then they appear at their destination or wherever that is. And I like the fact that they went very different compared to a lot of other science fiction shows that have either wormholes or gates or the warp speed that we're so used to. It was a nice little change that kind of allowed Battlestar Galactica to stand a little bit more in its own universe.
Yeah, and and there's an idea. I mean, if you study quantum physics, there's a concept of quantum teleportation, right? And so essentially, they're just taking that on a macro scale, and somehow they figured out how to do that. And it's an intriguing idea.
I always thought that some kind of like faster than light jump would be what they would figure out as far as some kind of propulsion. So I always thought that. That was, to me, this was more of a realistic, I guess, expression.
Mm-hmm.
I would say after this, probably the second most thing that looked halfway good to me was probably the way Stargate did their stuff, but with the ships as far as opening a hyperspace window, but.
Do you remember how Buck Rogers used to do it? Do you remember the Stargate?
Oh yeah.
It was awesome.
Buck Rogers, man. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Yes.
Glenn Larson did a really good job with that series. The effects in that were way ahead of their time, in my opinion. I love that. I grew up with that, Cameron. That was my age of television. So yeah.
Anybody got a screen grab?
Well, not only that, it has probably the best 31st century disco dance you'll ever see in television.
That's true.
It was a good show. The space vampire episode is it's really scary. It's still
beady. What's up, Buck?
I remember that.
Well, Mel Blanc. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
All right. So back on task here, though. We're out of the flashback, and Kendra replies to Lee. Hey, I'm a soldier. And she says that Fisk and Garner didn't deserve her respect, so they didn't get it. She calls Fisk a black market sellout and a piece of garbage. And she said Garner was a marionette and a micromanager. Mm-hmm. And Lee doesn't disagree with her.
She's not wrong.
And he then asks, so what's your opinion of me? And she said, well, you're a step up. Yep. But you're an outsider brought in to clean up and given the command by his daddy. Mm-hmm. And Lee kind of sits there and takes a second.
Well, he's not wrong either.
and then asks her if he wants to be his new XO. And she kind of has a quizzical look on her face. And he explains it and says, look, I need a strong XO that will show some respect for Kane's legacy, even if I personally don't believe in it. And he said, I want to give this crew its pride back. And he then gives her the major's pips, tells her she's out of uniform, and dismisses her. And that's the end of Act 1.
And I love that exchange, too, because he's like, One thing I learned before my father tossed me the keys.
Yeah.
That was so great. And Bamer did such a great job delivering the lines. So, I loved it. It was good. It was great.
I liked him as Apollo, and
Yeah.
if anybody knows anything about Apollo's character, he was not handed anything. His dad was hard on him. Everything his dad gave him and all that, it was hard. He didn't give him nothing. He made him earn everything.
Yeah.
So those people got it way wrong, man. His dad was always hard on him. He loved his son, and he showed his son love. But when it came to the military and all that, he didn't pull no punches. He expected the same of him as he expected
neither did
any
Lee as
soldier.
well.
Right.
Oh yeah,
He
well
was
in that
deserved,
first,
but yeah,
in
from
the
the
first
outside
season and a
looking
half,
in.
Lee acts more like an XO.
Lee did project that he learned the craft from his dad. Absolutely, script doctor.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah. But as I was saying, in the first season and a half, Lee's interactions with his father are far more like an executive officer and a captain than what actually Colonel Ty does. Because Colonel Ty is there just to be a soundboard and drink, and then maybe make a command or two. But Lee actually challenges his father whenever he's, going against what he views as his father's character. And there's a value to those relationships because there's tension. There's like, I love you, and I know that you don't teach me these lessons, so why are you doing them? And we get that throughout that first season. And now that we've gotten to this point here, the roles are now reversed, where he's now the father again, and he's able to check his son when he's starting to go against his character type. When we finally get to the climax of the film.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely deserved, and he knows what his son is capable of, so it was deserved. But again, from an outsider's perspective, you can see why others would think differently. So she kind of exudes like both of that. She knows what she sees from the outside, but she's had experience too with many other commanding officers, and so it would make sense that she has a negative slant of things.
Well, that's kind of a great segue, guys, because heading into Act 2, we see now Major Shaw overseeing weapons training with the recruits, and she walks up to this Marine, and I love this sequence. And she said, she looks, is your weapon ready to fire? And he says, it is, sir. And she holds the gun up to her head, and she's like, fire, go ahead. And he does it. So she puts his finger on the trigger and pulls it. Nothing happens. So she grabs something off the table and shows it to him.
Fire pin might help.
Yep, and orders him to do it again. And it's funny because Lee and his dad are standing outside the corridor. Assumably, the admiral's there for inspection because he's just looking in on Lee and whatnot. And Adama says, "Man, I didn't think it was possible to find an XO meaner than Ty."
He'd like to sell tickets to that dance.
Yeah.
Shit, I like to sell tickets to that dance.
Yeah. Lee says, "Well, she's tough, but she, he thinks it's needed, and it's just funny that Adama said, "Yeah, I'd like to sell tickets to that dance," but he reminds Lee that the XO is not a blunt instrument, and they have to work together and trust each other. And Lee said, "Well, we trust each other to do our jobs," and Adama said, "Well, that's a start." And so then we come to the real reason why Adama's there. He turns around to Lee and he said, "Well, now that your house is in order, a science team did, I sent them out in a Raptor despite my better judgment, and they're overdue, and I need you to go after them." And Lee wants to know what he should do if Cylons show up. And Adama said, "It's search and rescue. Don't get in a battle, but it's your ship, so use your judgment." And I don't know. Go ahead and comment on that, folks. What do you think?
It's a pretty straightforward scene.
Well, it's just an inciting incident, really. It's just an inciting incident.
It's a well-written scene. I don't know what more we can go into it, but
yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's nice that he's giving his son some trust. Yeah, he's giving his son trust to command. It's the inciting incident. The story is starting to actually really take off now. We've gotten rid of like the main parts of defining this new EXO character and how the relationship's going to be established on the Pegasus now. So it's now like, okay, let's jump in knee deep into the actual concept of what this story is going to be about, which is search and rescue of this civilian science crew. And that's what we're going to be holding on to for the rest of this movie to keep us focused on what's at hand here.
And you see the civilian science crew. I mean, they sort of the mission becomes bigger. Right?
Yeah,
I think they're dead. I don't know.
Well, they do. No, they find two of them, I think.
Yeah,
I guess those were the two people. You know, those are the people from, I guess, Galactica people that were on the ship where they're being experimented on, right? I guess that's what those two. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you know, the funny thing though, like I really like that sequence with the Marine, man. Shaw really established herself as like, you know, I could be a hard ass. I thought that was pretty cool, and that Marine looked like he was gonna shit himself when she put the
But it's also prescient because she has a little bit of a death wish, right?
Yeah.
With all this guilt and shame for all the choices she's made and all the things she's gone along with, that you know, there is this almost like, I hope that this gun actually works, even though I know the firing pin isn't in it.
Yeah, you know, that you got a good point about that too, Cam. I noticed that about her as well. So all right, so you know, we see that that Kara and you know, Captain Case Showboat, they're out in flying Cap in their Vipers, and you hear the chatter between Kara and Captain Case, and cuts back into the CIC, and you know, Shaw's just sitting there listening to them, like whatever, and she's scraping blood off the console with her knife, and then we go into a flashback, and the same blood is being scraped up off the console as Kane hangs up the phone, and nearby Kendra is working with technicians to repair the nav computer. Belzen, or the EXO, walks over to Kane, who tells him that sickbay lost 2 more people. EXO reports that brings the casualty total to 723, wow, which is more than a quarter of the Pegasus crew. The EXO reports 12 Vipers and 2 Raptors were destroyed, and another 17 ships are too badly damaged to be repaired. And Kane asked him what else. He said that there are rumors circulating throughout the ship thanks to comm traffic before it was cut off. He said that there are that they are 4 or 5 jumps from the colonies. Kane orders him to send 2 Raptors back for intel. He walks off. Kendra can be heard saying that they are ready to bring the navigation system back online. Kane takes notice and walks away. Kendra reports helm, weapons, and FTL computers are back online. Kendra also has found that some code that was about to be uploaded would have created a backdoor in the systems that would allow access to the network via wireless. Mm-hmm. Kane realizes that it could harm the entire network. Kendra says that it didn't get in because their network was already down. She recommends that the network stay down even after the program is purged. Kane agrees, makes a comment about her not being completely worthless, and then asks her how long she's been on duty. Kendra says she's never left. Kane tells her to get some rest since the attack was 2 days ago. Kane starts to walk off, but Kendra stops her and apologizes for how she behaved when the nukes hit. She said she was scared and she froze. Kane figures she's not scared anymore. Kane says, hold on to your anger so that it'll tell you what to do next time. Kane then moves off. Kane walks down the corridor, talks to a crewman, and she oversees a briefing with the XO, Fisk, and Shaw. She visits the temporary morgue and closes a fallen crewman's eyes as we finally see the emotional side of Kane. She begins to cry while looking over the crewman's body. Back in the CICs, Kane speaks to the crew concerning the rumors. She announces that the colonies have been destroyed, cities have been nuked, and the fleet is gone. As she talks, recon pictures are posted in a corridor. In CIC, Kane continues and says that instead of running and hiding, their imperative is war, and that as long as Pegasus is around, the Cylons will know that the war is not over. The spontaneous chant of "So say we all" builds and carries through the ship all the way to CIC. Gina can be seen voicing the sentiment as well. And there's a break in, we're heading into Act 3 at this point. So, all right, thoughts on the end of Act 2, guys?
Man, there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot.
I mean, it's really compelling stuff, and you're building up her character. You're finally seeing the chinks in her armor, right? And you're also setting up what's coming, which is that there's, the realization that the network can be hacked by the Cylons, right? And that's actually setting up the realization that Cylons have actually infiltrated, right? And that's it's really great that Kendra's the one that sort of figures out that there was something wrong here. She hasn't put all the pieces together, right? But
she is a tech analyst, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Kane referred to her as her tech.
Yeah.
Because the dialogue where, yeah, you had coffee. It would be funny if my tech got lost. Just tell me you had coffee.
Well, the other part too, which I really enjoyed from Kane, is the fact that it's in direct opposition to it's very familiar to what Admiral Adama wanted to do initially, but also because Kane doesn't have that contrary voice of opinion to say, hey, we need to survive. She then makes that impassioned speech about how this is now not just a war of survival, it's a war of revenge. It doesn't even matter if they die, they're just going to make an impact on the Cylons. So you end up seeing you're basically just saying we're going to die, defeating them just so that they don't forget us, that we fought back, because that's kind of from her perspective the best case scenario. And
in that, go ahead, Script. I'm sorry.
No. Finish off, Culture. That's great.
All I was going to say was what we're witnessing is the unfettered version of the military, unfettered by the civilian populace that they're protecting. And you're right. The voice of reason would have been, the school teacher, turned, or I guess the Secretary of Education turned leader of the free, populace. But you're right. Kane did not have that opposing view. She reacted as pure military. So her entire design was at that point to exact revenge from every single Cylon until the last man. And that it is exactly counter to what or maybe exactly what Adama would have done if he were unfettered by the civilian fleet. So yeah, you're 100% right. That's all I was going to say. I agree with you. So. And
I also think about it. That whole speech it's a little suicidal. I mean, as far as they know, the survivors. I mean, they ain't going to take on the entire Cylon race that wiped out 12 planets. Right? They ain't going to do it. This is a suicide mission. She's a little bit of a cult leader in this moment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and that also explains the mentality of Shaw. Ultimately, is she's been indoctrinated into that mindset that at any moment she could die. So I mean, that's where that because we were talking about that earlier, or Drew was talking about that, is that she kind of had a little bit of a death wish. Well, I think everybody on that crew kind of had a little bit of one at a certain point in time, because ultimately they all just saw an end. They didn't see survival; they just saw the end. So anyway.
It's like a part of them died already, and they were just going off of fumes and anger.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. And it also shows the mentality of what the military was among the 12 colonies, which is that it's fight or flight, and flight's not an option. And
probably a lot of coffee.
We see that in Adama, we see that in Adama, we see that in Tai, and it comes down to the actual civilian government to say, no, that's not the case. Like there has to be other alternatives, because we have to think the long term here, as opposed to the instantaneous skirmish of war. And now we're seeing, a bigger ship, more advanced ship with an admiral in command who is a very insecure admiral. She has fake confidence. She plays the role that she knows she's assigned to, but I don't think she understands the responsibility or gravity to it, because she's never really been a commander in combat, because she was a child during the first Cylon War. So everything she's done up until this point to get her rank has been war games or simulations, no real combat with consequences.
Right.
So now she's just playing the role, and we're seeing what a pseudo commander looks like from this perspective versus Adama's experience as an actual leader and a person who's faced combat in dire situations. And what I really like about this following act is how much we get to explore those two characters with what is going to be revealed from this recon mission.
Yeah, this was starting to really ramp up, and I liked I like a lot of what they were doing with Shaw, the way that they're fleshing her out, because I'm not gonna lie, I kind of had like a bit of a I started developing a little bit of the Shaw crush watching this. I was like, all right, this chick's like kind of hot, and she's like a badass. All right, I'm down. She can order me around a little bit, but anyhow, going into the next sequence in Kane's quarters, you see there's a table set, and Fisk and the XO are in there. Kendra tells them that they're looking over a recon photo of a comm relay, and Shaw says that it's being guarded by a half dozen Cylon raiders, and the XO's kind of surprised that there's a lack of protection there, and Kane says that they aren't expecting to be attacked. Kane says that's our first target, and gives credit to Kendra for finding it. Kendra says, well, I had help, and Gina walks in at that moment, and Kendra indicates that it was Gina. Gina walks over and kisses Kane, and Kane introduces Gina to Fisk and to the XO, and she explains that Gina and Kendra have been working to upgrade the systems and been overseeing the retrofit back at the shipyards. Oh, gosh. Kane then asks everyone to sit down and explains that she feels that her officers should get together and talk in a more casual atmosphere. Fisk makes a comment about actually getting to sit down in her quarters. Kane then says that her speech to the crew was for morale reasons, but that she has no intention of recklessly risking men or resources in a quest for revenge.
Well, okay, so I want to interject here. So that's an interesting thing for her to say, because we see that she consistently does that. And so it feels like she's trying to say this because she's trying to make her lover not look poorly upon her. She's like trying to cover herself with this girl that she likes.
Exactly. She's like sitting there speaking this out of a best face type of scenario, Cameron. And I kind of noticed that too, because she said, I want to fight a guerrilla war, and Gina said, well, the best defense is a good offense, and then Fisk toasts to good offense, which everyone else seconds.
Which is interesting because they focus on 6 in that moment, right? And and because that's the Cylon belief. I mean, they believe this entire thing has been a defensive war. They were created by humans. Humans enslaved them. This entire thing for a century has been a defensive war from their point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then we cut to Gina and Kendra working on system upgrades. Gina comments that she doesn't think they can get all the systems going by the next day unless they split up.
Mm-hmm.
But only Kendra has access codes. Kendra says that they can ask the Admiral about upping Gina's clearance. Gina catches the undertone and says that she thought they were being so discreet. And, they say, guess that's hard when you truly care for someone.
Mm-hmm.
She then says the program's uploaded and prompts Kendra to punch in the codes.
Yeah.
After a pause, Kendra tells her, Alpha 196 Gamma 1. Gina looks at her and smiles. She walks over and punches in the code. As she does so, she says that she and Kane met when she presented her plans for the retrofit and that they spent a lot of time together working out details. Gina wonders why Kendra seems so surprised. Kendra comments that she thought Kane was self-sufficient. Gina says that Kane has needs of her own and no one can survive entirely on their own. Gina observes that in the end, all of us are just human, which is a funny way to end the flashback.
Hey, you want to know what her first role was? She
What
played in
was?
Farscape as Nurse Froy.
Who? Which one?
Kendra?
Who Kendra did?
Stephanie Jacobson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
That was her first role.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's why she looked familiar to me a little bit.
Yeah, and it was. It doesn't. It's the Incubator is the name of the episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. She's.
Man, I haven't seen Farscape in forever. I need to rewatch that.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen
For
Farscape.
those of you who want to see it, I'll just pop that right in the chat.
Yeah, that's good. That's good sci-fi.
Yeah.
But back in present in Pegasus CIC, Kendra and Lee are listening on the wireless as Showboat and Kara are singing 99 bottles of ambrosia, and Kendra kind of says, "Hey, did they ever shut up?" You know, it breeds sloppiness for the rest of the pilots.
Mm-hmm.
And Lee said, "Well, as long as she sets a good example with their flying, they'll be okay."
Mm-hmm.
And then just then Hoshi said, multiple greatest contacts. And then Starbuck radios in, we've got incoming. Where did they come from? Lee said that, they better get back to the ship on the double. Lee then orders the batteries to use cover fire, but not selective targeting only, and prepare to jump as soon as the Vipers are back on board. This is where I thought Kendra was in the right when she said, sir, shouldn't we launch alert fighters and engage? And Lee said, well, we're going to go after our missing Raptor, but otherwise they will jump away and not engage. Mm-hmm. And, then we get to where Starbuck, well, really quick before I go on, mm-hmm. Does anybody think that, she was right in her assessment that they should launch alert fighters and engage?
I mean, it's hard to tell. We don't have all the data, right? I mean, we don't, what they're trying to do in that scene is just trying to show that he is still very cautious in this new role that he's taking on, right? Where she has been hard-nosed, trained to just attack. And ultimately, it's going to be interesting as he starts evolving towards her position over the course of the show. So I think that's the story reason for that dichotomy. I don't know whether that was the right choice because I don't think the entire military logistics of it have been presented to us.
Yeah, and it's also something to show counter to what we saw in the flashback, where Kendra is being more authoritative, more militaristic, more strategy. Because in the flashback, she became a little bit more emotional and compassionate, and volunteered that vital information to someone who she thought she trusted, and she's now paying for that. And we're seeing that reflected in her actions today, where she's like, "Hey, Cylons are attacking. We've been betrayed by Cylons. We shouldn't even be thinking about retreat at this point." As Cameron said, we should just be wiping them out so that we can get our people home and get back to the rest of the fleet. And what Lee ends up doing is he actually echoes very much what his father would have done, which is like, no, I'm staying on focus with this mission. This is what I know, how it will work. And as things escalate, that's when he starts to sort of lean a little bit more to her line of thinking. Like, yeah, if we got to bring our birds home, we have to have a better line of defense, just to push them back far enough so that we can get our birds in, jump away, and come up with a strategy. And you can see how he's a commander that's willing to reconcile with his XO, which is why he values her and why he valued bringing her in. So we're seeing a lot of character growth with him saying, like, I know where my limitations are. That's why I need her. And at the same time, defending Starbuck to her as well, saying, like, I need a good pilot and a good CAG who can lead these people in these situations that are going to be not familiar to the Pegasus crew at this point, because you've got Starbuck, who is a shoot by the hip kind of erratic fighter who knows how to inspire, lead, and organize in her own unique way that other Viper pilots can get behind that they've never had before. So it's a whole about balancing between what the main part of the fleet has done for the past 6 to 8 months to survive, and what Pegasus has done not really for survival, but based on the fact that they've been attacking the Cylons nonstop since they regrouped. So yeah, I mean, it's great character dynamic and growth, and it shows a little bit of conflict, and also shows how they're earning respect to each other by not being afraid to voice each other's opinions and goals.
Yeah, and to that end, I mean, it's the embodiment in the scene of what Adama was saying earlier, which is, I never thought I'd see anybody as tough as Ty or tougher than Saul Ty, and you have, a good match as a team member for his exact counterpart, the person that he needs in that position. So absolutely, I love it. This is fun. You guys are awesome. I like this.
But how would this scene not? But the scene is more interesting when you have these 2 points of view conflicting. Because if she said, "Hey, let's launch emergency fighters," and Alma said, "Yeah, okay," well, where's the drama now? It's now going over to a set piece as opposed to something between characters that doesn't have a payoff. So you kind of want to make sure that you don't make it easy for either character when it comes to their point of view, because that way you can get the audience involved. If everybody's just agreeing with each other on a show, like, where's the drama now? You're just kind of like playing, putting down puzzle pieces right in front of them in the order that they're supposed to be, as opposed to, juggling them around and making them in a more dynamic and fun way.
Right.
Yeah. I actually get to see a show like that right now. I think it starts with the word star, and it has another word for traveling somewhere. I don't know. There's a show like that right now.
Well, the cool thing is, so we're missing the big, awesome reveal in here, guys. There's we call ourselves a retro review. There's a nice retro piece right in the middle of all this, and that's the fact that Kara said, when she said, our new friends don't want to leave, and she's like, I can almost make out the ships, and guess what they are? They're original Cylon Raiders.
I started cheering when I saw that, because I mean, the whole thing with going back to, and then later you have the 3 guys sitting in the seat.
Oh yeah,
and you got the Gold Centurion. Oh yeah,
going back to my childhood, it was so wonderful.
It was great. Yeah. I mean, I can dig out my Cylon hat, my helmet.
It was well earned too. It was well earned. That's the other part.
Speaking of retro, throw that image up real quick, Drew.
Which image?
Which one? The thing.
Yeah.
That you put in there. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay.
No, it's just share the screen. I've got it shared.
Okay. So
that was 1999.
Oh, okay.
And 9 years later, she's still looking good.
Oh yeah.
She looks the same, just with blue hair.
Yeah, blue hair and piercing blue eyes.
Good actress.
Blue hair when it was cool.
Yeah.
I like the Supreme Heretic background. That's kind of nice. I like that. I'm awake now. I like that.
That's Lady Death. That's my favorite comic book character. We could have a discussion all about Lady Death too.
I don't know Lady Death, but now I feel like I need to know.
Lady Death is awesome, man. It's one of the original pinup girl comics.
All right, well now I'm awake now. Here we go. Look at that. Okay. I see her. I just googled it. Here we go. Okay, all right. I'll be looking at that afterwards. All right.
Okay, but yeah, I thought that was really cool with the original Cylons, and then like Culture was saying, the 3-man crew in the Raider, continue attack on Battlestar Pegasus by your command. I mean that was great.
It's good. I mean that's the level of detail and caring for this franchise that they brought into this. I mean that shows how much love they had this in there, because you rarely saw the toasters. I think we saw the toasters as like in a museum or something, and but you actually see them in action in this great episode. So.
Yeah, and it was great also because it's only the second time that they make an allusion to that line, by your command. The first time they did it was in the original miniseries. This was only the second time that they did it, where they said the words, by your command, which they did all the time in the original series. God, I missed that. It was so great. Oh, my.
The only thing that I wanted to see that we never got to see was the IL models, the old Lucifer model.
Oh, yeah, with the cone head.
Yeah, and I always wanted a Lucifer model because
the ones with the I remember those.
Because Lucifer was so cool when he'd argue with the original Boltar.
Boltar was, for a while, Boltar was like their supreme commander, and I never quite remember how that happened. How did Boltar become their guy? Whatever.
Yeah, I think there was also a thing where we thought he died on like an Egyptian style planet, but then the next episode he's fine.
Alive,
yeah, but their prismatic brain hat, that clear glass pointy on their head, and then there was the exposed gosh, what did they call it? Like it's just like a positronic brain, but gosh, and then Baltar went from being a prisoner to being their leader really fast. It was really cool, it was really fun. The original series. I mean, if you get a chance to go back and watch it, you really should. It was fun.
Well, what I was always impressed with was how complex they made Baltar in this series, right? He is a villain, and he's not really a villain, and he has his relationship with Six, which is a projection of his mind. And they take it all the way through the end of the series. They never let it go. And he survives and is on Earth. And you're like, this dude made it all the way.
Well, see, you got to understand.
No one's surprised either. It's like, yep, that makes sense.
Elaine, we got to explain to Cameron, you got to learn about Script Doctor. See, Script Doctor has Baltar bias, man. He
His
don't
favorite
like
character.
He don't like guys.
Actually, he's a great character because you enjoy to hate him, and he's a very pathetic human being.
He's a great actor.
Character you love to hate.
Delicious. You love to hate him.
You love to hate him because you're like, this guy's despicable. He doesn't deserve any of the position or authority or any of the reverence that he gets from the rest of the fleet. The positions he has.
They never figure out his computer.
Also, the imaginary Six.
Mm-hmm.
It's
he
thought
really
that she's actually an angel.
There you go. Culture.
He gets one moment to contribute to the fleet, which is saving the president's life, and everything else he does is completely self-serving, and you're just like, oh yeah, this guy's terrible. Like, you just want to see him get his comeuppance, and no, he never does. And it just kind of shows you like the dire nature when it comes to our own human society is that sometimes the most reprehensible people get off scot-free.
Well, that's the wondrous thing of how they did this Battlestar Galactica is that even in the miniseries, you establish that this isn't the best of the best, right? To survive this, right? This is a screwed up people, and that's it. That's the future of humanity, right? You first see Starbuck; she's in prison, right? I mean, this is a screwed up. These aren't the noble characters of the original Larson series. These are pretty messed up people. And that's
it plays more into the randomness. It plays more into the randomness of what would happen if humans survived a cataclysmic disaster.
Yeah.
And the odds are always in the favor that it's not going to be the best of the best. It's going to be just either the most cowardice or the ones that are like the most savage, and it's going to be a tug of war.
So in that way, it's like, I mean, these are just fantastic circumstances with science fiction. You can really explore these complex themes, these huge themes, but it's still relatable. It's still realistic in that way.
Yeah.
So I think his character definitely helps in that regard, because yeah, it just wouldn't be realistic. In the end, if everyone was the same kind of person, it just wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't feel, yeah.
You need one snake in the bunch, right?
Yeah.
Or another wolf in sheep's clothing.
That's right. Baltar is a Clinton. Just think of Baltar as a Clinton, and you've got it.
Nice.
Yeah, and just to finish off the politics of that, those dudes are Teflon, right?
Yeah.
They're Teflon. He's Teflon, so it is what it is.
That's true. Yeah, that's
Eventually, Teflon does peel and flake.
Yeah.
Just takes a while.
My screen is frozen here, so I might end up like somehow. I'm gonna try to fix it. So if I deactivate, I'll be back in a second. So you guys can talk.
Okay, no worries. So does anybody kind of want to comment on the fact that while they were in the CIC, they goes and they have a bit of a malfunction with the FTL. So Lee is his attention is with Hoshi, and they're trying to fix the FTL, and then Shaw gives the order to increase the spread of the plaque so that
they'll drive the Cylons back. Yeah,
you can drive the Cylons back, and then Kara and Captain Case, they both have to shoot their way through all the plaque just to get back to the Galactica. And I thought, or to Galactica, the Pegasus. And I thought when they were making it when they came back into the launch bay, when the Raider pursued them into the launch bay, I thought that was cool. It was such a cool sequence when the Mark 7 flipped around and Kara took it out with her guns. And man, that was cool. That was just wicked. I was kind of almost having a flashback to the old series, because I was expecting them to cut to the bridge of the Battlestar and the old Colonel Ty. You always say fire in the bay.
Yeah.
Well, even the cinematography of that scene is an homage to the original series, where they had the Raiders fly into the hangar bay. So they threw in a lot of really cool little tweaks there to really play up on the nostalgia, but also show us something a bit more new and fresh to lead into the story.
See, one of the things that's always fascinated me about Galactica is that it is a very religious show, right? I mean, as someone, I'm a student of religion. I'm personally religious, and that's not very common in Hollywood. But this show embraces religion in a way that other science fiction shows, like Star Trek, in various iterations, was very uncomfortable with religion. I'm not so sure the original show was, but in Next Generation, others, there was some discomfort. I think Deep Space Nine did go religious, and I worked with Ira Bear, who created that. But this show is very deeply about religion. And I was mentioning in the chat to some of the colleagues here, Glenn Larson, who created the original show, was a devout Mormon. And this is essentially Mormon, religion, philosophy.
The tribal nature of their religion, 100%, Cameron. Yeah. I mean, that's they believed in the tribes of humans, and that's 100% where that religion is based. Yeah, and it's not just the Greek.
I mean, that's part of their.
I think they showed us the spiritual side aspect.
Yeah. Yeah,
and they did it well.
Yeah, I thought they blended it well, because it was never did it seem like very preachy or over the top. It was just very well blended in, and I thought that was a great sort of way to do the whole kind of conflict between monotheism versus polytheism.
That's exactly what it is. It's the Cylons that are the monotheists.
Yeah.
That's the genius of it, because the Cylons sense the unity of consciousness, because they have a unified consciousness in their system, right? And we can go back to the show here, but what I found intriguing in the mutant, that sort of hybrid thing here, when he was in that tub and he's sort of spouting the tub stuff, there's a lot of religious stuff. He's actually prophesizing the fall of the Cylons, that they will go from unity to disunity, right? It was really fascinating to hear that mantra.
And it's also really fascinating is that it's not just a prophecy, but it's also a calculation from Cylon artificial intelligence, right? So it reconciles both science and theology into one, and it's all based on like calculation to create a prophecy. And then we also have on the colony side things, they have those books that prophesize that going to Cobalt will point them the way to Earth, and that Earth will be led by a leader that is dying, et cetera, et cetera. So you have all these two things where they're more similar than they are different. It's just the foundation from where the source is coming from is one through pure faith, and the other one's through mathematics to get to philosophy, to get to theology, to get to faith. No, they're very much thinking 4D chess when they were coming up with the cultures and societies in this show, and it's a lost art in some cases.
And Ron Moore wasn't afraid to explore this. Like I said, we worked on a lot of shows. There's a lot of personal hostility with a lot of the screenwriters I've worked with towards religion in general. And yet Ron Moore understood something, which is that this ain't going nowhere. The more technologically advanced we get, the more people want certainty and the more they want answers. And that's the human condition. And that's a good thing, in my opinion. And he explored it.
And there's nothing wrong with either side doesn't really conflict with each other.
Sure.
Because the concept of the religion is basically just abstract moral stories to keep us on the straight and narrow, as it were. And science allows us to be able to objectively look at the truth, so long as you're able to remember that you're supposed to keep on the straight and narrow. And that's just how they work in tandem.
And one can argue that science, in and of itself, devoid of religious or philosophical insight, can lead to things like, Dr. Mengele, right? I mean, that's pure science, right? And we're facing a lot of these issues today and dealing with the events that are happening in the world right now is, just discussing science without morality can lead to some pretty horrible things.
Yeah. Yeah. And we actually all need to take advantage of Pascal's wager is essentially the theme here.
I like that.
Absolutely.
That's a really cool picture you got there, Culture. I like that.
That is my favorite Cylon design. I mean,
oh, I love it. I love it so much. I tried to build one of those costumes, and I every time I fail on the foam when I go to cast it, every time I fail, I'll figure it out. I'll get there someday. It'll look good. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever find enough neoprene to do the under part of the costume, but I'll try. We'll see.
Nice.
So I apologize, my colleagues. I actually will have to hop in about 20 minutes or so. So maybe we can go back in and I'll be able to participate as much as I can with the rest of the review and just forget about other obligations in about 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
Bust loose, Drew. Go.
All right. So
awesome.
So basically, after that barrage, they jump out of the zone, and on the other side of the jump, they're in there, and Starbuck is pissed, obviously, because she's like, well, why did she order that barrage? And Lee tells her, frankly, she probably saved your life. So, remember, she's also the XO.
Yeah.
And Starbuck, of course, goes right up to Kendra anyway. It's what the hell were you thinking?
Yeah.
And then Kendra says, "Yeah, don't question my tactical orders. That's a bad idea on this ship."
Which allows a flashback of her own experiences, under Kane.
Exactly. So we get into this is the third flashback we're into now. Yeah. Kendra reports that there's 12 raiders, and Kane comments that that's stronger resistance than I expected, but one squadron should be able to handle it. The XO orders, and this is cool, orders the launch Blue Squadron, which, if you remember the old show, what was Blue Squadron? Well, it was friggin' Apollo, Starbuck, and Boomer. And Jolly, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But Kendra says, there's new contacts, and it ends up being 15 full squadrons of raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Fisk figures that they jumped in right after Pegasus. Kane decides they found a staging ground and not a relay. XO asked to recall the Vipers. Fisk reports 2 minutes to contact. XO reminds they need to recall the fighters, jump away, and regroup. Kane disagrees and wants to launch reserves to provide cover for Blue Squadron. XO argues that they'll be outnumbered 4-1, and Shaw reports that a single squadron is inbound to Pegasus. Kane orders weapons be brought online. Kendra reports weapons are down and network has locked them out. Kane orders manual control on weapons. The XO says that this is a trap and we're outnumbered and outgunned. And Kane says, well, that's why we need to launch everything that we have.
Mm-hmm.
The XO walks over to Kane and, speaking quietly, says this is exactly the kind of situation that she said she would avoid. Kane asks him if he's refusing to follow orders. He steps back and says that in good conscience he can't follow her order. Yeah. She said, "Give me your sidearm." She takes it, and this is one of the most shocking moments, if not the most shocking moment of this movie, folks. She literally splatters the XO's brains all over the back of
and he knows she's going to do it. I mean, they're friends. We shout, "Oh, come hang out with us, take a vacation," right? I mean, they're friends. And, he's trying to save her soul. And when she asks for his gun, he says, "Excuse me." He knows why she's asking. Yeah. And then when she orders it second time, he gives it to her and he looks her in the eye because he knows what's coming.
Yeah. And she just, boom, shoots him right in the head. And then as soon as his body's not, 1 millisecond cold, and she calls Fisk over and she said, "Now, you going to follow my orders?" Yeah. He picks up the phone and orders the attack. Oh, man.
Well, what's interesting is that's obviously one of the most memorable moments in this entire movie. And it's very visceral, and I think it's very well executed. But it's also realistic in the sense that, I remember listening to an interview of a military commander, good old Peter Jennings, when Peter Jennings was alive on ABC News, right? And he was interviewing this guy, and he was talking very clearly about if someone disobeyed him in the heat of battle, he would shoot the guy in the head in front of all the troops. Because you have to do that in order to maintain the unity of, or we're all going to die. We're all just going to surrender and be killed. And so he said that, and it was very interesting because, horrifying as that is, they're in the middle of a battle, you can see why she would do that.
Yeah, you don't have time for dissension.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then we move on as we see his body's being finally wheeled out of the CIC. Shaw's reporting several airlocks been opened and they've been boarded. She orders Fisk to send in first response teams, and Kane orders Kendra to secondary damage control. In the launch space, Cylons are landing and they're boarding. Kendra walks down a hallway. She checks on a Marine and is surprised by Gina. Gina tells her that the Cylons are coming this way and are killing everyone. Kendra tells her to go to the CIC. Gina runs off. Kendra looks around the corner to see a Centurion, and she ducks away until the Centurion moves off. She looks back again and sees a 6 model walk in. Mm-hmm. Kendra is stunned and looks back again. After a moment, she gets up and shoots the 6. She runs up to check on the dead 6. She then looks up and notices the camera. She runs off. Kendra runs into the CIC and immediately orders Gina to move away from Kane. Gina questions her. Kendra reiterates the order and tells 2 Marines to take her into custody. Kane belays the order and says Gina was helping them get their weapons back online. Yeah. Kendra says that Gina is a spy and they look like us. Kane doesn't buy it at first, and Kendra asks Mr. Hoshi, show the camera feed from airlock 4. Gina starts to call her crazy as the footage of the dead 6 is shown. Kane is stunned and immediately orders that thing off her bridge. A Marine closes in, but explosion shakes the ship. Gina takes advantage, breaks the Marine's neck, and shoots a second Marine with their weapon. She then points it at Kane. She hesitates, which gives Kendra enough time to pick up a rifle and knock her out.
See that this is such an incredible sequence, right? Mm-hmm. And that moment when Kane realizes that her lover is actually, this machine that's been manipulating her, and she just turns and flips, right? I mean, she just it's like
on a dime.
It's just a light bulb. She goes immediately to that. But it's also very revelatory, and we've seen 6 in so many capacities in the original show, but this is the fundamental flaw of these Cylon androids, which is that they are programmed for human emotion, which is their actual weakness, right?
Right.
And that's what ultimately doesn't allow their plan to work, because they become human, and humanity will always ultimately they end up fulfilling humanity.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're spot on, dude. Um, what any of you guys? What do you guys think of the sequence? Not only with this, but when she popped the XO.
Well, we'd already had that foreshadowed in a previous episode when it was described that had occurred. I think Cameron's assessment was exactly right. He knew what was going to happen in that moment. So and as shocking as it was to actually see it occur, I can't say I would have been surprised. Kane was always Kane. I mean, and that character has always been very well played, very very well written. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Elaine, what did you think when she found out, or when Kendra proved to her that Gino was a Cylon, and Kane just flipped on a dime like that? What did you think about that?
I mean, again, it wasn't so out of character for her. We had just witnessed her murder her XO for just refusing to obey an order. So she was already on. She has flipped a switch. But she was already exhibiting those qualities of not having empathy or not having understanding, the way she treated Kendra's, her dead mother and her view of that. So it's just little things like that carried us through to this. And so it just wasn't a complete shock, but I mean, it was, I guess, a shock. Yeah, it's very, very impactful episode and sequence of events right here. But it was all leading towards that. There's one event after another. And it just made, I mean, this was Kane. This is what she was going to do. And again, with how cold and unfeeling she was before with her XO, just certain things. Yeah, she was going to do that. And she just didn't have those feelings anymore. It was just another switch that she turned off and had to be the cold captain and just did what needed to be done. So it was just another decision. It wasn't have anything to do with feelings. It was just another, she shut off that part of herself, another part of herself that was feeling those feelings. And yeah, she did what needed to be done in that situation for the good of the ship and the good of the war. Yeah.
Well, she becomes less human as these conflicts arise, which actually shows how dangerous she is.
Mm-hmm. Another part of her humanity is being chipped away. Yeah, and again leads to this.
And then we're going to see that more chipped away as we see what she orders done to Six, right? When she's got her as a prisoner, right? And because I had not seen Razor before today, I had just seen how the consequence of Razor in the original series, and we had seen the Six that was held captive that had already been tortured and gang raped, right? And had essentially been pushed to. She couldn't even talk; she was numb, and we saw the horror of that. And so we already know what Kane is taking her to.
Figures the one day I'm 2 hours late. Cameron's here, and I'm sorry, guys. My head was in the computer. I was writing.
I'm signing out in just a few minutes. So we always do this, Stephen. We always
miss each other. You know what we need to do? We have a live stream with you and me and a bunch of girls because I think we both like
bring
girls.
On Kenny Taylor, buddy. I'm on. You just bring her.
All right, sounds great.
Good to go.
Yeah. So
toxic.
So we get into so after that sequence, we get back out of the flashback, and Kara and Shaw are locking horns still, and Lee kind of gives them that little gruff talking to, like, everybody's got their eyes on you, act like officers, God damn it, and then what happens is it catches their attention because they turn around and they've got you're bringing down the wrecked raider that got shot down in the bay, and turns out, it's like, what the hell is that? They're kind of just standing there looking at it, scratching their heads. Then we get a scene where they're obviously back with the fleet now, and Adama and Ty and Rosalind are all over there, and they're looking at it like, man, you haven't seen one of these things outside a museum. What Ty says, and Adama's like, yeah, it's been a while, and we get into the thing where they get Athena up there, and
well, this gets into the lore of the Cylons, right?
Yeah.
So this is where Sharon expresses how there was this one base ship that was experimenting on something that fled just before the end of the first Cylon War, and this confirms something that Adama witnessed when he was a pilot, and that takes us into another flashback of the last day of the Cylon War.
Yeah, and I really like out of the flashbacks in this movie, I really, 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 really like the Husker flashback. The Husker flashback is awesome. I
didn't see that coming, and it's a lot of time. We get to see this, to see young Adama doing his thing, and that whole action sequence,
dude.
And going into the atmosphere and then they went all the way. He's like shooting this dude while he's parachuting. He's shooting a Cylon and they're fighting out with hand-to-hand combat as they're plummeting to this planet. This was I'm trying to figure out what was going on in the writers room when they imagined that sequence. They went out of control and it was great.
Oh yeah, and then the other part too is you see how much it defines Adama's character, because once he gets over that hurdle of defeating the one Cylon and he hears the other humans trapped, he does everything he can to try and rescue them, even willing to stay with them as they're being taken away. And it's only the prisoners that are telling him, no, you got to leave and tell our story. And he's reluctant to do so, which shows so much of how human he really is. And then that flashback also carries us over into Kane's flashback, where on the same day, this 12-year-old girl's running with her sister and her father. Her father gets injured, and he's like, you got to protect your sister and go away. And as she gets out, she abandons her sister and then hides. And you're like, yep, that is exactly what these two characters end up being the foundation to their philosophy. One cares for others, which is Adama, and Kane cares only for herself. And you can totally see those motivations play out through the rest of their story arcs in Razor and also in the rest of the series, and it's beautifully done.
There's a great visual moment where she actually finds the razor in the wreckage there, where she's hiding from the Cylon. She finds that shaving razor that is symbolic of her, right? And I would only add a slight tweak to what you said, Script Doctor. I would only suggest that yes, she is. I don't think she just cares for herself. She's just a scared little kid. And when the Cylon leaves, she does come back for her sister and just finds a sister's teddy bear. And that's the horror and the guilt of, she's just a 10-year-old kid. And and that is what that moment that she did do that. And she came back, and we presume the Cylons have taken the child, and who knows what they did to her. Was she used in experimentation? We don't even know. Right. And that horror of not knowing, she found her sister dead. That's closure. Right. She didn't even
yes, because now she's forever a victim without any retribution, and that's kind of what basically kills her heart, as it were. She succumbs to her flaw of cowardice, but when she finally feels like she can go back to actually help, now that she realizes everything's lost, that one Cylon is right in front of her, and she's like, okay, I'm going to go down fighting. She finally finds her courage at the worst possible time. Then the Cylon walks away, and now she's got her anger fuel to give her control, which goes into what she said to the XO earlier. And then you just see that entire anger kind of like break her again, and then she reforges herself when she finds that the only thing left behind for her sister is that little teddy bear.
And on that profound note, my friends, I apologize to all of you. I know we still have another half an hour worth of a show to go over, but I actually have to step out. So I hope I've been able to add some insight to this discussion. That's sad.
Oh my God, dude!
Thank you.
This was amazing. Are you kidding me? And I knew that having both you and SD on this panel at the same time, man, I knew it was going to be gold. And Cameron, you guys both delivered. So. It was great finally getting together with you and getting to do some Battlestar stuff with you.
Well, I hope to come on again, and I appreciate everyone's time here and appreciate everyone in the chat. I try to interact with a few people in the chat. So and thank you, Culture Casino. Hopefully you and I will be able to do some stuff as well, and Bear and Nerd Cookies and everyone.
It
was a pleasure to meet you.
Privilege.
It's all good. All right, guys.
Always fun to talk shop.
Fun. I will actually watch the. I assume this is going to be posted.
on
YouTube. So I will watch what happened after I left, and I'll see what your commentary was.
Yeah, I posted. I always post it in a playlist. I got a playlist that I always add these to on my channel, Cameron. So yeah, it'll be easy to get to. So,
all right, guys. Take care, and hopefully I'll be on again sometime.
Yeah,
thank you, Cameron,
so much for your time.
Nice to meet you.
Peace. Bye-bye.
Good night, sir.
Oh wow, what a treat, guys! Cameron Pasha was simply awesome. So big thanks for him to be on here and to be gracious enough to lend his time, considering he's a very busy man. So I greatly appreciated it, and Cameron. I know you're off of the stream, but man, dude, you are good. You're good people, and it was a pleasure hanging out with you. And my friend, we will be in touch. Keep in touch, man. Definitely hit me in the DMs on Twitter. So, all right, let's get back into it. So, anybody want to kind of after Sharon explains that a little bit about the she gets into the hybrids, and that these models were kind of like the guardians of the original hybrid and whatnot. That leads into the next flashback, as Script Doctor alluded to. And if somebody wants to step in and go ahead and take the fourth flashback and kind of explain what's happening during the first Cylon War, I need to step away to the men's room for a second. So I will be right back. So if somebody wants to graciously take that, Script Doctor.
No, we're going to stand here in silence until you come back, sir.
Yep. Ready?
All right, go ahead.
Well, so this scene basically just elaborates a little bit more on the experimentation of humans and why Adama thinks it's really imperative that really imperative that he temporarily transfers his flag to Pegasus to oversee the mission, even though Lee's still going to be in command. This is now escalated to something a bit more serious, and Adama wants to get some closure on this because this was something personal to him. This was his last mission. He wasn't able to save those people, and he needs answers. And this is an opportunity to do so, and also at the same time allow them to gain more understanding with what's going on with the Cylons, because this lore is only something that Sharon knows ancillary as like myth, not actually confirmed. So getting this intelligence could be quite valuable to what's at stake for the colonies. So that's kind of where we're kind of escalating the story. It's now going to be a search and rescue and possibly a destroy of this base star that has been hiding for 40 years, I think it is.
Yeah, I think so. 40.
I thought it was 50.
40 or 50 years.
The first Cylon War, 41 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's 41 years. I think so.
41.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah.
It is 41.
Yeah, it was 40 years, but it's are we talking about the scene on the bridge between the Adamas? Is this what we're covering? I'm sorry. I am everywhere today, and I cannot multitask, so I'm a scatterbrain.
Okay.
Script, were you talking about the scene between the Adamas on the bridge? There was a really cool scene. I don't want to jump ahead. I know there's a rule here.
Well, Drew's not here, so.
What's that, Nerica?
Hey, Steven, check the private chat.
Well, there's a really cool scene I want to talk about between. What am I drawing? Oh, between Starbuck, when they were trying to get on the base star. Have we gotten to that point yet?
No, we're right before. We're basically getting the guys organizing their plan of the attack. So we're waiting for Kendra to work with the CAG. No, that's okay.
Are we just before flashback number 4?
I believe.
Look, Kendra.
So.
First of all, can we take a minute? Can we take a minute to appreciate Kendra? First off, I like the character of Kendra Shaw. It's a shame we didn't see more of that character. It was a nice redemption arc throughout the whole thing. And Stephanie Jacobson would have been a very happy addition to the future Ex-Wives panel. So I thought she was really good. I actually looked up her the different stuff that she had been involved in, various TV shows and such. But her performance in this show actually made me want to look that up and see if there was anything that she had been in or anything I had missed that I would like.
Yeah, Bear was.
Yeah.
Do you want to show that
Stephanie
again?
Jacobson.
Yeah. Let me pull that.
You gotta wait for Drew to come back to share the screen.
I'm back. I'm back.
Okay.
All right, I'll pull that. I screenshotted it just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case.
He was prepared.
And it's in the group chat if anyone wants to.
But where the nerd cookies?
Well, I really liked her character, that it was this whole flashback kind of sequence, this whole prequel event was centered around her character. I thought that really gave it really grounded the episode, really made it fresh and new, and it was a new story that expanded upon what we already knew. It wasn't just capitalizing on nostalgia or just saying, hey, remember this? Yeah, this came from what we already saw. No, it was fresh and new, and I think her character really just made that so much better. Really grounded the story. Really made it really drew you in. I guess made it fresh and new and exciting.
Yeah,
I agree. And from that performance and this picture, I'm not saying that it would happen, but the possibility of catching a child support payment is in the ether.
Hey, a little background on this photograph. This is the episode Incubator in Farscape. And this is 1999. 9 years ago, man. Look at her now. Look back then,
I don't know. I like her. As Kendra.
I liked her in Farscape. I remember it from them.
Oh, yeah.
I liked her as Kendra. I liked Farscape. So, I did remember. That was like a cool thing. Like, oh, that's who that was.
This was her first thing she did. Ever. Acting wise.
Nice.
This Incubator.
She's been in several series after that, but
yeah, but this was her first on her acting list.
Nice.
Her acting chops in Razor was just really good. She carried it. She carried it so that for me, she could have been a long established character. And the entire character arc. I'm sorry, I'm going off topic a little bit, but her entire character arc made me care for her. I like good redemption stories. I like people who realize their mistakes.
Well, yeah, and that's something that we pointed out earlier in the broadcast, Stephen. That the fact that
which I of course missed.
They did a masterful job actually of, introducing her, making you care about her, and even though they killed her off in the same movie, you still cared about her from beginning to end, and it wasn't just the usual, because a lot of times you'll find that when they try to pull this off with the character in a television show or in a movie, it's very tough, and usually it doesn't resonate because the character's like you're just like meh, what ups,
right?
But in this case, yeah, she was actually really compelling, and that was what was so great about Razor. Everybody talks about Michelle Forbes because Michelle Forbes commands a scene when any scene that she's in. I mean, she's just her presence is fucking great. But Stephanie Jacobson's performance in this entire movie is underrated. I fully believe, because she did a hell of a job with the Kendra Shaw character. I thought it was great from beginning to end.
Well, I don't know how it was rated necessarily, because I watched it for the first time. It was really cool being a fan of the Battlestar Galactica series and then finding that you've missed something, and going back and watching it was just wonderful. It was like reliving my love, being able to see something for the first time with fresh eyes from that era of Battlestar Galactica. She had a wonderful supporting cast. I mean, not that Adama was also a part of the main story. He had his own story arc, but she had the supporting cast of people. There were expectations that were placed upon someone who's coming in to just do a one and done around all these people that are familiar with one another, and some of the other actors that had come back from death. I mean, to play a past iteration of their character. I think Stephanie did such a great job. I cared about that character. I didn't want that character to die, and so that my expectations were satisfied.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Absolutely.
how far did you get through, Script Doctor?
Just before what is it? Flashback number 4.
Okay, so
1 paragraph to be exact.
all right, so basically we've got Husker, young Adama. He walks into this facility and kind of makes his way to the door. He's after he pauses, he enters, and he's got his gun at the ready. He looks around and sees like body parts and skeletons on tables around the room, and I mean, it looks like a mutilation pit, man. And then Husker, he's looking around and he spots like this vat of stuff, and he walks over to that and puts his hand into this liquid that's in the vat, and as soon as he sticks his hand in, he starts hearing voices from all around the room and everything else, and tries to figure out where it's coming from, but he's kind of also connecting to the agony of the fate of the people that all died in there. And then a hand comes out of the vat and grabs his arm. Husker struggles to free his arm from the grip, and suddenly there's a flash, and the hand is gone, and he kind of falls backwards from the vat, sits on the floor, breathing hard, thinking about all this, and then he hears the echo of all of this has happened before, and all of it will happen again. He slowly stands up and retrieves his gun. Husker hears like a knocking, kind of thumping, moves towards it, and he reaches a door, and he looks inside, and hey, is anybody in there? And then suddenly, you see somebody that's on the other side. He's got his hands up, and he says, "They left us here. Don't leave us here, please." And Husker says, "I'm going to get you out of there." And he looks around and finds a pipe, and he's trying to pry open the door. As he struggles with the door, the guy is explaining, we're civilians, and they jumped our convoy, destroyed our escort, took us all prisoner. There were 50 of us, but they took us away one by one. We could hear others screaming. We don't know what was happening to them. Please get us out of here. And, he says, "I'm trying, but the door must be welded shut." And suddenly he hears a loud rumbling, and the voice on the other side of the door says, What is it? What's happening?" And Husker says, "I don't know. It feels like a quake. Place is starting to come apart." And then we see an old style kind of base ship beginning to leave the planet's surface. And Adama strains and manages to open the door a couple inches, and the guy looks through the gap in the door. Husker says, "I can't open it any wider." A man can be seen trying to put his hand out. A woman is also seen peeking out the lower half of the door. The man tells Husker, "You got to go. You got to go. Got to get help." Husker said, "I'll stay here with you." And the man said, "No, you can't do it by yourself. Just go. Tell them what happened to us." our ship was the Diana from Gemini. Just tell them, all right? If you stay here, you'll be trapped like us. Go. And then Husker turns away from the door reluctantly and looks back and sees the woman reaching through. And the man says, go. Just save yourself. Go. Husker turns and runs back out the doorway that he first came in. He runs outside into the snow. It stops and leaps against a building. He looks up to see the base ship leaving the atmosphere. He radios Galactica. Galactica, this is Husker. Do you copy? And, he said, I crashed on the surface. They were building something down here, experimenting on people to do it. Now they're getting away with whatever they built. Then they let Husker know the war's over. He said, what? Galactica, repeat, the war's over. An armistice was just signed. Activate your beacon. We'll send you the search and rescue bird. Husker, respond. And he just drops his hand down and looks up. And then that's the end of flashback. And Admiral Adama said Cylons escaped with whatever they had made right before the armistice. Rosalind wonders if the hybrid is still alive. Adama said, I don't want to think about it. So then we get into where he says, he tells Lee that Baltar and Tiro were able to pull the Raiders' computer and extrapolate a possible location of their base, which is likely a base ship, and that's where they'll find the missing scientist. He said it's 2 or 3 jumps from where Pegasus was attacked. Rosalind said they shouldn't risk both battle stars. Adama said that he's transferring his flag to Pegasus temporarily. Lee is surprised that the Admiral is going along. Adama says that Lee will still be in command. Lee thinks his mission is all just over a legend. And Adama said, it's more than a legend, son. I was there on that base, saw what they did to make that hybrid. Not going to let it happen again. Lee says he'll have Kendra bring up an attack plan. Rosalind said that brings up another concern. Kendra Shaw gives a briefing on the plan, which involves making the Cylons believe that the Pegasus FTL is down and is unable to jump and move off its sublight. The Cylons will pursue, and this allows the strike team to move in. Lee thinks it's a good but risky plan. He said who will be piloting the Raptor. Kendra lets him know that Captain Thrace will be doing the piloting since it's the only pilot that Kendra trusts to pull this off. Lee then brings up Rosalind's concern that Kendra was involved in the incident on the Scylla where 10 civilians were executed. He wants to know if it's true. And then that's when we get into another back to the dead woman flashback with she's got a gunshot between her eyes and is looking up at Laird. Kendra said that she was there and figures that alone is enough to indict her. Lee wants to know why she didn't tell him. Kendra says that she is Kane's legacy and she wouldn't have blinked at her plan because victory doesn't come without risk. She then offers her resignation. Lee said that would be the easier way out, wouldn't it? Lee said that's risky, but she's the only game in town, and he approves her plan. So, what do you guys think about that?
Well, they've got to walk onto a base ship, and those Cylons, man, they're like elite special forces of Cylons. They're tough.
Oh, the old school ones?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it seems like they're a little harder to kill. Yeah, they're tough.
Also, I'm going to go into this a little bit more later, but using the old school Cylons was awesome. Again, a nod to the old fandom. Even if the old fans did or did not embrace this iteration, it's still a nod to the past. There was a few of them in this episode, which I was really happy to see, and a reference to a show that was on around the same time. That was on after this, that had an actor. I'm going to get into the scene later, but I thought it was really cool. I caught it. Don't know if y'all caught it, but I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry, jumping ahead. The horror scene, man. The scene where young Adama is down, looking at all the body parts and what they did to make that hybrid, was a horror scene. I was jarred by. I don't like horror. I was jarred by it. I was like, wow, that's really cool. That they made it. They gave it that feel. They really wanted the audience to feel that shock and awe of something so grotesque and unbelievable happening.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I felt that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was shocking, dude. They went all out. Like, you saw like the body parts and the, half skeletons and everything. Like, I was like, damn.
And were they scavenging existing humans or trying to build their own? We're not 100% sure at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was. I thought it was clear that they were like taking live humans and experimenting on them to get the end result. That's what I thought was happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But you know what? It felt like a modern Frankenstein castle in there. It was that kind of a jarring experience.
Very gory and
very mad scientist like.
Yeah. It should have been in black and white.
It felt like something out of Aliens too.
Yeah, it did.
Buckets of sweat and everything.
Yeah, buckets of sweat. I want to get out of here, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there was so much in this episode, and I loved how they incorporated, the old school Cylons and making it a part of the story.
Yeah, and they did it, in a way to honor the original show. So yeah, I agree with you, Nerd Cookies. I also, again, I mean, that speaks to me because as a little kid, or not a little kid, but as a younger kid growing up, I got to see the show on television when it was airing originally, and it was, it was amazing. So being able to see all that callback, and there is something to be said for the occasional fan service and or some extra member berries here and there. And this particular, the extended version of this at 111 minutes was pretty phenomenal. So I really enjoyed it.
This is fan service done right. When it actually means something. It's not fan service for the sake of it. As I was saying before, just nostalgia or member berries, whatever.
Right.
It's actually part of it. Yeah.
Hey, Steven, have you seen Blood and Chrome?
I saw
oh man, Steven, you got to watch Blood and Chrome.
I saw Blood and Chrome.
Don Voodoo.
Yeah,
that was the web series, right?
Yeah, that was the old back when Machinima was still their channel was still something. That was back in the day when Machinima was good.
Blood and Chrome, it came out in 2012 and it runs.
It was on Machinima.
90 minutes.
It was on Machinima's YouTube channel. They had the little episodes of Blood and Chrome, and they were good. But yeah, it was 90 minutes altogether.
But yeah, they got it all together, and there's a the unrated cut as well as the regular version. Yeah, I noticed it after the fact. I was like, could have got the unrated cut. Yeah. I'll probably end up getting the unrated cut anyway. Yeah. Good stuff. Love it.
So it's very interesting that once they got what they needed. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So we go to after Lee approves her plan. Kendra goes down to kitchen and turns on the radio, and she's just like kind of sitting there and drifts off for a second, and we're back to another flashback. Kendra's reporting to Kane that there's 816 dead and 121 injured. 32 Vipers are destroyed, another 61 badly damaged, and there aren't enough parts to repair them all. Kane said it was a high price for an insignificant victory. Kendra differs on its significance and that they put the Cylons on notice. She said the losses are her fault because she gave Gina her access codes. Kane and Kendra have been standing in the brig in front of Gina's cell. Kane says that Kendra gave it something far worse, which was her trust. Lieutenant Thorne walks in, and it's a nod back to the 3-episode arc of the series, of the Pegasus arc. And Kane orders him to use any means necessary to break Gina, including evoking emotions such as pain, degradation, and shame. Thorne enters Gina's cell as Kane and Gina look at each other. Kane is paged to CIC and leaves with Kendra. In the CIC, Fisk reports that they just picked up a civilian fleet of 15 ships. Cap has already moved ahead to intercept. He's excited about this. After a moment, Kane orders Kendra to contact the ships and request crew and passenger manifests, ship schematics, and inventory lists. She then orders Fisk to assemble teams of engineers and soldiers to board the ships. Fisk isn't sure what she means. Kane explains they are going to take everything they need from the ships and that there is bound to be resistance. She questions Fisk as to whether he has a problem with their orders, and he says no. Then we see Fisk, Kendra, and Marines walking down a corridor. Fisk requests permission to board. This is on the Scylla. Laird welcomes them aboard. Fisk immediately states that Admiral Kane ordered him to give a document to Laird. Laird wants to know what it is. Fisk explains it's a list of equipment and personnel that need to be transferred to the Pegasus immediately, including Laird. Laird notices they want to take the FTL drives. Laird is stunned they are deciding who is going to live and die. Kendra says they will make accommodations, but they are at war and military needs take priority. Laird says no. He tells the rest of the passengers that they want to take what they want and leave the rest behind. Kendra said they have orders, and though they don't want to harm anyone, they will use force. Laird continues to refuse. Laird and the rest of the passengers start to move forward. Kane is in the brig looking at the bound and beaten Gina when she gets a call from Fisk. Fisk explains that civilians are denying them access to the rest of the ship. He says there are whole families on board. As she looks at Gina, Kane tells Fisk to tell them that he will shoot the families of any selectee that doesn't comply. Fisk asks her to repeat that order. Kane tells her to get it done and hangs up.
Wow. Pretty brutal.
Yeah. I remember watching that and I'm just like, wow. You know, because it's one thing when you hear him relaying the story to Ty, you know, when we were doing the 3-episode arc of the Pegasus, when you actually see it play out on screen, it's like, oh my God, you know, like the actual grittiness of it. So back on the Scylla, he orders the Marines to line everybody up. He repeats Kane's order concerning shooting families of people that refuse to comply. Civilians begin to throw things. Fisk says that they will carry out the order, pulls out his gun and raises it. Marine asks, "What are we going to do, sir?" Kendra looks up. Suddenly, there's gunfire. Fisk calls the Pegasus. He then walks over to Kendra. He said that it's over because the whole fleet has heard, so there will be no more resistance. Kendra looks over the body. She stands up, looks at Laird, and then back at the dead woman. So I'm assuming that's Laird's wife that they took out.
Wife and child, I think. Yeah. And the other part too is not a single officer among the Pegasus crew said we have enough space for these people to be on Pegasus. Why must we segregate?
Yeah. Well, you know, I wonder about that script, but then, you know, you have to wonder about...
They lost over 800 people. I mean, they clearly have enough space for these scattered ships.
I don't think they viewed them as people anymore at that point. It was only people that could serve a purpose.
Exactly.
So anything else was like dead weight.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
She
yeah,
wasn't
very
thinking
chilling.
long term. Like where Adama's like, we need pilots, so we have to start, picking whoever might be able to. We could train. Doesn't matter their age, doesn't matter their gender, nothing. There's like, we just need pilots. And Kane has this great opportunity for it right then and there, and she doesn't even consider it. She's just like, nope, you're not military, therefore you're not important, and you're not an engineer or scientist or doctor. So she just makes these absolute decisions based on people without seeing the potential of what could be used for her own advantage. And it just kind of shows you how stubborn of a character she is, and how she's not about the long game, and that she's just playing a role as opposed to being a true leader. It's quite fascinating and dark and disturbing at the same time.
It was. I mean, just to see that play out. I mean, man, because you didn't think like they'd actually shoot people, and then they wind up like shooting people. It's like, holy shit.
Well, she does that because they shoot the people because Kane was willing to do the same thing. She did it to her XO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you saw the bar. Like if the admiral said I'm going to kill you if you don't comply, then every officer under her command should be able to follow that exact same order, since the admiral already did it herself.
Yeah. She didn't view them as lives, as human lives. She viewed things as resources.
Yeah.
Like what could be more useful to us now for the war? And again, like you were saying, she wasn't thinking long term. It was only what's the benefit to the next mission?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's almost like she was running the Pegasus like a pirate ship.
Kinda, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some spooky parallels in American politics right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Addressing the elephant in the room culture. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. It's crazy, and that's the thing right now.
Well, at least Kane didn't go and get a haircut first.
It also shows what like fear and anger are capable of. If you shut that part of yourself off, that's empathy and fellow feeling, and you're just living off of anger, or just really shut off any emotions, that this is what can lead to.
Yeah.
No feeling, no healing.
And it goes into the title of, because we're getting pretty close to the story of the Razor itself. So yeah, like this is the dichotomy between Kane's philosophy and Adama's.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, we see the end of the flashback as the boarding party walks off from the Scylla. And then we get back to where Kendra shuts off the radio. She reaches for the can that has the syringe in it and gets ready to puts it to her neck. And then Kara slams the bottle down, and Kendra puts the syringe down. Kara said, "Well, the XO's human after all," and walks over and says, "I used to surf the wireless bands. It helped me feel like we weren't alone out here." And she asked Kendra if she has any more of that stuff. Kendra said, "Yeah, what stuff?" And Kara said, "Oh, the stuff you were going to stick in your neck." Kendra tosses over the syringe and come to an agreement that Kara won't talk about Kendra's stuff, and Kendra won't turn Kara in for stealing alcohol from the ship stores. Kara then walks out.
Camaraderie among addicts.
Like some good brandy.
Kendra puts up the syringe and turns the wireless back on.
Yeah.
We kind of hear, we kind of get some context about where this movie falls in the story, because we can hear about Rosalind's miraculous recovery from her cancer, which again tells me that this sort of falls right in between that area of the right after the captain's hand is just about where this episode or this movie is, which and I stand by that. I think that fits chronologically. Once you get that little clue where at the end of it that you can hear on the wireless about Rosalind's recovery, you're like, yeah, this is right after the captain's hand episode. So we get into
boobies in your background. Are there boobies in your background? Looks like Colt potting a nice pair or something.
Did you finally just notice that?
Script Doctor is giving me a.
Of all the streams you've been in, you're just now noticing
confusion right now. What's going on with that?
What's going on with what?
His background.
Yeah, I was a bit confused by that myself.
Confusion there, Script. What are you doing over there?
Everything's topsy turvy.
Yep, pretty much.
Know.
Yeah.
Everything's crazy right now.
Right here. Let's see.
Actually, you could say switchy swervy.
I'm sorry.
Now there's two of us.
I'm sorry. I saw Brett in your background.
Twinsies.
You guys.
I like this panel.
I know. It's never a dull moment. So
in this episode,
I don't.
Yeah, it's fitting.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I don't think I could handle 2 nerd cookies. 1 nerd cookies is that's a handful.
Oh yeah.
Well, if we're getting nerd avatars, I'm gonna get one, and mine is gonna be different than everybody else's. I guarantee it.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Put my face on her body?
I'm scared.
Mackany, if you're listening, contact. DM me, buddy. DM me.
Wait a minute. I'm gonna put Nerd Cookie's face on Stephen Walton with shirtless. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh, that's a weird image.
What? Don't do that to people.
Oh,
we're right back into Husker entering in the horror of the body facility.
Good segue.
It's like, let's move this along.
Nice segue.
Yeah, well,
the horror.
Raquel has your back. Raquel has your back there, Cookie.
Thank you, Raquel.
He has your
yes,
back.
I agree.
And Raquel's a teacher. She'll put everybody in line. She don't mess around. But yeah, we get into another flashback now, and this time Kane is kind of surprised at the lack of reaction from Kendra Shaw concerning her promotion. Kendra says she's not sure what she did to deserve it. Kane says not to look back, and there are times that everyone does things that they never thought they would. Kane says that yesterday, Kendra showed her that she could set aside her emotions and do what was necessary, no matter how repulsive. Kane takes out her knife and tells her about the razor. He says that until the war is over, they all have to be razors and don't have the luxury of being ordinary humans. Kane again congratulates Kendra on her promotion to captain. Back out of the flashback, Kendra continues tuning the wireless where a report about Rosalind's recent ban on abortion has sparked protests. Then we get into the SAR mission, the present-day search and rescue. Pegasus jumps in and is engaging a base ship. Pegasus takes some damage, and Lee decides to kick up Kendra's plan. He orders that the FTL be taken offline, and they move off. Cylons follow. Kendra and Starbuck jump in the Raptor. Kendra is happy at how easy it was. Just then, 2 raiders turn up. Kendra puts the Raptor into a faux spin, and they force eject. Cylon Raider takes out the Raptor. And on board the Raptor, Gold Centurion is seen as well by the other Cylons, echo the sentiment as they go back to pursuing the Pegasus, and then get into the last second to last act here. This is where we're getting into the big action. I kind of like this whole thing that they had the Raptor set to, I guess like fake engine trouble, and then just let the enemy blow it up. And I like how they kind of went into space in their suits, and then they just kind of went in and floated in toward the base ship. Did anybody wonder about that? I mean, I was like, I can't remember. Did they have little like thruster jets on their suit?
I think they did.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They had thrusters. This is a similar tactic in the Navy where they use like a boat, and then they cause like a fog. The passengers jump off, and the enemy takes out the boat, and then they just kind of swim or scuba dive to their target without the enemy even knowing what's going to happen, and hopefully they get an exfil out once their mission is accomplished. So it's a very play by the numbers strategy.
Yeah,
and they do it well here for like a space version. I actually really dug it.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool sequence when they bailed out of there. So the team floats toward the base ship, and finally in the CIC, Lee gets a transmission from Kendra Shaw, who reports that they are able to board the base ship. Comm chatter continues as the team moves through the ship. They report picking up 2 weak signals. On board the base ship, the team closes in on a room. They find 2 people still alive, while the Cylons have carried out experiments on others. They get the 2 survivors out as 2 Centaurians show up. Weapons fire is exchanged as they try to escape. They move out into the corridor, and one of the Marines is hit. The rest of the team continues retreating as they report that De Silva is down. The Centurions reach De Silva, and one starts to drag him away. Kendra sees this and raises her weapon. Starbuck knows what she is about to do, but doesn't reach her before Kendra fires, killing De Silva. Centurion then lets go of De Silva's body and fires at Kendra, wounding her. Back in Pegasus CIC, Lee is antsy. Kara calls in and reports they recovered 2 survivors, but there are 2 wounded and 1 dead. She requests a response. Lee and Admiral Adama look at each other. Back on the base ship, Kendra requests sit rep as the weapons fire continues. Kara reports the signal is being jammed. Kendra asks about the nuke. Matthias reports that the remote detonator is fried. Kara orders her to get it working. Kara then asks Kendra about De Silva. And Shaw says that they all saw what Cylons were doing, and she wasn't going to let that happen to him. In the Pegasus CIC, Lee orders that they continue to attempt communications with the Red Team. Then orders Hoshi that a ship-to-ship nuclear missile be loaded. Admiral Adama wants to know what Lee is doing. Lee says the mission has been compromised, and without communications, they have to assume the team is lost. He orders the missile tube be opened. On the base ship, Red Team continues to take weapons fire. Kara notices that Kendra is starting to fade out. She attempts to contact Pegasus again. Pegasus takes more fire. In the Pegasus CIC, Lee said it's no longer a search and rescue mission, and that he heard what the Cylons were going to do to their people. Adama counters that he knows because he was there. Hoshi reports nuclear missile has been loaded. Lee orders him to use his launch key and put it in the firing lock. And this is interesting because the next thing that happens is Admiral Adama belays the order and says that he isn't ready to give up on his people. Hoshi then reports jamming is cleared and they are receiving transmission from Red Team. Adama orders them to put it through and launch the evac Raptor.
Well, there was a huge explosion that shook the Pegasus.
Well, yeah, there was just a raider or something blew up by the CIC, or by the Pegasus. But...
Okay, can I cut in just for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are now past them boarding the Battlestar, right?
Yeah,
we're at that point. Okay, so if anyone didn't catch it, just in case you didn't know, in the original series, Starbuck was played by a guy named Dirk Benedict. And was gender swapped. That was a big thing of contention. Well, Dirk, after leaving Battlestar Galactica, went to another show. It was called The A-Team, where he played a character named Face. And one of the famous lines that was said in every one of those episodes, not by him, but by Hannibal, the lead character, was the same line that Starbuck said after they had ejected out of the Raptor. I love it when a plan comes together. Yeah, I thought that was a great little hidden gem.
Wow, nice catch, Steven. Nice catch.
Wow.
Not only that, like in the A-Team, they do reference the fact that Face looks exactly like the actor that plays on Battlestar Galactica.
Yep, and there's even that Hollywood statement that where they're in Hollywood and the Cylon walks right by him and he looks at it. He takes a second look. It's like everybody knows. But yeah, I thought that was a great callback to the A-Team. It was respecting that era of television and that connection, even of the actors from back in the day. So that's why it's difficult for me to really. Although I can listen to arguments from people who don't like the new one, compared to the old one, OT purists, which is perfectly fine to be. You're a Battlestar fan, but there was so much respect, that was an out of the way nod of respect. To just the person that was on the cast. So I just think that's a good thing. I love this series. That was it.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point, Stephen. Just modern productions, you see less and less of, the full-on, I guess, tender, loving care and reverence toward source material that you did in this. They had a really genuine reverence for the source material. And even though they built their own universe, they still, didn't forget the source material, nor what it meant, nor where it came from. And yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, too often we see like new things like Star Trek Lower Decks. They try to make fun of it, but not in a good way of like making light of certain things, but they're straight on like making fun of it, and in an attempt at humor in itself, just making fun of the past, and that it's not funny. And that's how they treat the franchises that are the reason for all these shows' existences. But this is an instance where they are truly showing respect and reverence for what came before, because without it, we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't have this modern take on it. It wouldn't have continued. And I love that they appreciate that they wouldn't be where they are now without it. And that's nice to see too. I really appreciate that, and not being like, I'm not knowledgeable of the original series, but I can tell that those moments when they're paying homage to the original things, and they could have used plenty of opportunities to make fun of the toasters or that design, but instead it's part of the story. It's an essential thread to this story in particular. It was really interesting to see all the different things and all the different homage, but still was important. It wasn't made fun of. It wasn't, I don't know.
It was used to be basically the cherry on top of the ice cream.
Yeah.
So we get this great little, we get a nostalgia reference and nostalgia imagery of something that we all love that also allowed the foundation of this show to exist. And it's not used as a crutch. It's actually used to add to the existing story. And it's done so without a whole lot of focus on the fact that, oh, look, these are the old things. We should, like, you know, exploit them, have fun with them, just show them up for the sake of showing them up. And that's not done in this case. They're actually saying, okay, we have this old stuff. How can we put this to use so that it can actually contribute to what we're doing instead of just a blatant reference to give us a crutch so that we don't actually have to put any effort into the story we're telling, because people will just be taken away, swooped off their feet from all the warm memories they have of Battlestar and the fact that they're seeing these set pieces of the old versus the new in this film. And there's like, no, let's give it a purpose, give it a use. And that's kind of where Star Trek and Star Trek Lower Decks under the Kurtzman era is failing egregiously. Like, they just dropped the reference to drop the reference. In fact, the most recent episode, which was sadly one of their better ones that came out, had vast majority of references from every generation of Star Trek show there is out there, just crammed in for the sake of them cramming it in. Right. And it just felt hollow, and it didn't do anything to contribute to the story. It was just there because they could put it there. And yeah, it ends up becoming empty. But whereas you look at a movie like Razor and everything else that Battlestar has done, it's all about taking what we have and can we present it in a new way that doesn't do a disservice to where it came from, and how can we make it work. And they're not trying to force anything together, and everything that they think might not work, they just say, okay, we won't use it, and they'll just focus on the Raiders, the Base Star, the Centurions. Keep it that simple. We're not going to have like the weird alien species that's always in the shadows. We're not going to have Lucifer, sadly, even though I think that would have been funny if the Lucifer was the guy that was in the tub that was just like kind of half converted, what have you. That would have been a cool little thing to do, but probably a little trickier on the practical side of things. And they didn't have Baltar like, completely integrated with this old Base Star, like being able to communicate it through 6 or what have you. So they really made sure that they took the best of what they could actually use to contribute to the story and committed to that, as opposed to just pulling everything they possibly could and just cramming it in there just for the sake of trying to appease or placate or patronize the initial fans.
Right.
In other words, no fake nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was the right way to do it. So as we move forward here, they get basically Kara radios back to the ship, says they're pinned down, and they need to know if evac is on its way. Lee says that it is, and he said the Cylons have broken off. Back on the base ship, Kara tells Kendra what's going on, and then Matthias, the Marine commander, she reports that the remote detonator is shot. Kendra tells her to ready the nuke anyway because they are completing the mission. Kara gets back on the wireless and gives Lee a sit rep and asks for orders. Lee says that they still have the nuke ready. The Admiral counters that the Raiders are now in defense position and will take out anything that they launch. Lee realizes that they will have to leave someone behind. Adama said, "It's your team, son. You have to make the call." Lee picks up the phone, tells Kara, move the team to the evac position, arm the warhead manually, and complete the mission. Kara helps Kendra up, and they move down the corridor. Red team reaches the airlock, and Kara tells everyone, get your suits on. She turns to Kendra to find Kendra has a gun on her. Kendra orders Kara, put the nuke down and go. Kara goes into the airlock, and Kendra closes the door. And I found this interesting, this moment here, because Kara says why, and Shaw says, you know why.
Redemption.
And it's just this was so poignant, and this this kind of this exchange, this moment kind of got to me when I was watching this. I don't know if it did for anybody else, but it got
me too. Very emotional.
What did you think about that, Elaine?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's just so many feels right now. I feel like her story arc was, they did so much backstory. They did a lot of work and care into this character, Kendra, and when we finally get to this moment, it's, she's every bit of Kane's protege, but she is still like her own person, but you could still see the impact that Kane had on her, but it's being used for good. It's very powerful, and again, it's very sad, how things work out. I mean, I guess it was for the overall good, but yeah, at this point, they did such a good job at making us care, and they really put the work into developing this character. At this point, you really feel something. You care about this person, and we just knew about this person. From the beginning of this, we didn't know her, and we feel like we really do at this point. And through the means of all these flashbacks that served a purpose, they built up this character. And we now feel something, and I think that's really good writing and development, and of course the actress herself. Yeah, it was really powerful moment, I thought.
What did you think about this moment, Culture?
I don't know that I can add very much to what Elaine just said. Look, redemption is a word that got thrown around here pretty early, but I think it's just, I think it's more a sense of duty. I think it's more, in reconciling what your end has to be, coming to grips with the idea that, in order for everyone to survive, somebody has to sacrifice. And, we already knew that pretty much everybody under Commander Kane was prepared. At least I believe that we had this discussion earlier, was prepared to essentially die from the very moment that she engaged in, her type of guerrilla warfare in this. So I have to say, I just, I wasn't surprised by what they had the character do. I have to tell you that I agree 100%. The acting was exemplary. The writing was very good. You did care about this character just like you do in any good movie. This is well written. I had, there was a genuine sense of loss at the end, and that comes from good character development. It comes from good storytelling. That you don't get that. There's no magic formula for it. It's just, this is the way you do things when you try to, when you try to make a television show or a movie or whatever. And this actually accomplished it. I loved. Well, I don't know that I loved the moment, but it was, it was. You knew it was going to happen. And it was well done.
Yeah, I was just like, man, kind of blown away. I was just like, damn it, I didn't want her to die either, but damn, she did. So speaking of that, she's not dead yet. So she's dragging the nuke down the hallway. After everybody's got their suits on, they're in the airlock. Kendra's dragging the nuke down the hallway. She gets to the end of the corridor, and suddenly, she starts thinking about the lady on the Scylla again, and then she hears out of an open doorway, all this has happened before and all will happen again. She looks over, sees the hybrid, and she goes in and sits down by it, and he says that he may be a man or a machine while his children believe he's a god. Kendra walks over to near the tub. She wonders if he is. And he said that he's seen everything that she's done and asks if she wishes to be forgiven, which, again, I found that quite interesting as well. she goes into immediate flashback. Fisk has raised a gun saying, they will carry out the order. Pulls out his gun and raises it. Marine asks what they're going to do. Fisk looks around and Kendra looks up. After a second, she pulls a gun, walks up to the woman and shoots her. There's commotion and then silence. Kendra looks at her gun, down at the woman, and then at Laird. The hybrid again asks if Kendra wants to be forgiven. Kendra says she does, and he wants her to come closer because he has something to tell her. I got something to tell her, too. Kendra makes her way over to right beside the tub. The hybrid grabs her arm. The hybrid said, and this, by the way, before I get into this part, this was like when we watched Razor originally, I remember people on the original Pegasus actual forums were going crazy because there was supposedly they had teased there was going to be a big nugget of info in this movie. There's going to be a big foreshadowing, big reveal. And right here, we get it. The hybrid tells her, Kara Thrace will lead the human race to its end. She is the herald of the apocalypse, the harbinger of death. You must not follow her. He then lets go of Kendra's arm. She steps back. Evac Raptor pilot reports to Pegasus that it's inbound. In the Pegasus CIC, Hoshi relays message to Lee. He adds that they have Starbuck on board and that Kendra stayed behind. Just then, Kendra radios in. She starts to warn them about Kara, but her message is jammed immediately after mentioning Kara's name. On the base ship, Kendra gives up on the wireless. She arms the nuke. The hybrid says, as my own existence comes to a close, only to begin anew in ways uncertain.
Wow.
Kendra observes that he's scared, and she says he should be. Kendra arms the trigger, and the hybrid utters, all of this has happened before and will happen again. And then Kendra pulls the trigger. Spaceship explodes. Kara watches the explosion from the evac Raptor. So that is our big sort of climax right there, guys. So yeah, it was sad to see Shaw go, but damn, what a good sequence! That whole sequence on the base ship was really cool, and that reveal drop at the time. I mean, you can imagine, and I'm sure that those of you that watched this originally back at the time when this came out, because this did air on Sci-Fi as well. They aired the Razor movie on there. I mean, it was shocking because everybody was like, holy shit, because this was another piece to the puzzle. Like, holy shit, something's up with Kara.
Well, something might be up with Kara. Remember, this is a third-party being, not really intimately knowing stuff, as intercepted fleet comms signals and whatnot through whoever means of monitoring that they have. And it could all be done as a form of manipulation because you never know, right? Because the Cylons have a plan.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
The Cylons have a plan, and this plan goes back to the end of the first Cylon War, which is this is the most purest representation of that, this base star. So basically we don't know exactly what is going on here, but it's basically set up something that could be a red herring, but also could not be. And I think that's actually really well played because you either take it as gospel and that it is going to be the truth, or you take it as basically disinformation. In either way, however the fleet learns of this information, it determines what their next actions will be, in which case the Cylons are now a few steps ahead of the colonies. So, I mean, it's a lot of fun to do here, and it's actually also interesting that the Cylons jam her signal so that she can't actually communicate that idea, so now it leads it to a form of dramatic irony on the audience's part. We know something about Kara Thrace that the rest of the colonies don't know, and that possibly the Cylons do know, but that's not yet to be confirmed. So there's a lot of fun with that.
This hybrid, I'm getting the feeling that the hybrid was trying to hint that there was a higher form of Cylon in existence that no one knows about. That's kind of the impression I was getting. Because we've got different evolutions of Cylon, right?
Well, she asked,
Right.
are you their
Who
god?
knows?
Is that what she asked?
Exactly.
Mm.
And is there now we know that in the original in the Battlestar Galactica main story that there was 5 major Cylons, major models that kind of jump started some things. What if there were ones before them that we don't know about?
Mm.
That's what I got the feeling that this hybrid was hinting at. Because he said he knew everything and seen everything. And also, he was able to share his thoughts, the hybrid was. And when Husker, when Dama first experienced that, that was telepathy that this hybrid was using. He shared all his thoughts, and in the future, when the team went on with the nuke, he shared his thoughts with her a little bit. And this guy could peer into people's thoughts. How powerful was this hybrid? How far could he see? Questions.
Yeah, quite interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting too how that. We see how spiritual this society of humans is, and this is the Cylons are their the kind of the offspring of them. So to have them have the spiritual aspect to their design and to their I can't, the way of being, that they actually have gods or these and we already see that in some form already with Angel 6 and how she refers to the gods, and she's kind of like this, and we call her Angel 6. So there's kind of the spiritual aspect with them as well, that it's a sin. They talk about sin. So that's kind of interesting. I thought how it's incorporated into the Cylons as well. So I thought that was very a unique aspect of this story, and just very interesting. And for such of a bomb to be dropped like this, like it's really cool that we used to debate things that like this. Like this is what we used to debate about, and it was so much fun, and it was so interesting, and it could lead to all sorts of conversations. And instead, like what would we debate about now with like Star Trek and other things? Like this is what we used to debate about. Like just this prophecy, like the introduction of something like this was really cool and just led to all sorts of unique and interesting discussions.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the forums like exploding over this. And John Willis, man, you're on fire in the chat, buddy. Nice, good stuff there. But no, I remember the old forums exploding over this because, people were like, what's going to happen? Oh, wow, Kara's got to be a Cylon. This is, so much speculation and everything, man. It was nuts, but that's what's so good. I mean, we had a show that was actually so damn good that, it could pull off things like this and left you wanting more. And that was what was so great about it. And that's what I loved so much about Razor. This is still like one of my favorite things to watch just by itself.
Yeah.
So
I was wondering at the time. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was wondering at the time, like, why he would even warn her. Why would he even say this what was it? Was this information going to help anything, or?
Yeah,
I'm
going to jump in and speculate just a little bit because the hybrids have played well, as we'll find out in future episodes. They play this part multiple times. It's essentially trying to stop the repetitiveness, to cease the cycle of this process. This has all happened before. This will all happen again. I think that they're trying their darndest in their own odd way to stop that cycle.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, he's probably trying to play into the forgiveness emotion with regards to the XO. He's probably saying, hey, if I tell you this important information about Kara Thrace, maybe you won't detonate that bomb. Maybe. But he just doesn't, like, even though he can predict the future, I think that's more of a computer programming thing where they're just taking in all the data that they've been monitoring over the past 51 years and are able to extrapolate how things are going to play out on a statistical level. And he's trying to say, oh, if I forgive her this way and make it appear that I am far more knowledgeable, far more godlike than I actually am, perhaps she won't destroy me, and perhaps she will actually relay this information back to the Galactica and the rest of the fleet, and that will allow us to either break this cycle or continue on with whatever plan we have in motion. But to the contrary, because this character has gone through this arc, she decides no, she's going to commit to the actual mission because that's far more important to herself and to the people she's charged with protecting than this possible lie, which the Cylons have made an active effort to make sure she cannot communicate wirelessly with. So there's a lot of other layers going on here, which I found it very fascinating that they chose to dangle this carrot in front of us and then completely yank the potential of that information reaching the colonies.
Good night, Rika.
Good night.
Night, Raquel.
You're saying, Script?
No, that's pretty much it.
Man, everything that you got to say sometimes just blows my mind, man. You're right on the money. You're insightful, and
I know, yeah.
And Don't you hate him? Things I haven't even thought. Oh no, man!
Totally hate me. It's perfectly
fine. Doctor gives me ideas all the time. I'm telling you.
Hang out with me if you like to get really high all the time.
I love it how you really finish off thoughts really well on the spot. That's really good. So it takes me some time to form a thought and then to communicate it.
It's practice because
in this group you gotta be
a couple miles a minute.
Yeah.
Or second, as it were.
Yeah.
That's silly really Canadian.
Such an interesting part right here. No, there's so many things going on. It's just ripe for a discussion. It's so cool.
It's like they gave this character, the hybrid, to everybody, and it's like this. We all want to know more about this character, right? I know I do.
Oh yeah.
And
they opened up the world even further by going a little bit backwards. It's quite inventive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like when they were experimenting, that one scene, and then something else that we haven't seen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They covered the Blood and Chrome. they Blood and Chrome. You got to watch it, man. You got to watch that. It touches on some stuff. The flashback.
Yep.
Yeah. You want to see the whole flashback? Watch Blood and Chrome.
Yep. All right. So bringing it home really quick. So back on Galactica, assumably, Adama is pouring a couple drinks. Lee's there with him. Adama says Kara came by earlier and recommended Major Shaw for posthumous commendation. Lee said that Kendra wasn't after medals, and Admiral Adama agrees. Adama then states he's been going through Kane's logs and can't find fault from a tactical standpoint with anything that Kane or Kendra Shaw did. Lee is stunned by what his father seems to be supporting. Adama says that had he had Rosalind looking out for the survival of the civilian fleet, he had Ty to balance his tactics and morality, and he had Lee. He said that having his own son around and knowing that he would have to face him made him rethink things that he considered doing with the fleet. Lee contemplates that for a moment and then observes that if Adama had been in the CIC, Kara and her whole team would be dead. Adama said Lee did nothing wrong, and neither did he. Lee wonders if Kane and Kendra were wrong. Adama said that if he believed in a higher power, that's where they would be judged. Since he doesn't, then it'll be left to history to judge him. He said history's first draft will be written in their logs. Lee puts his drink down and and moves to leave. She said, "Well, I've got some writing to do." Adama tells him, "Think about that commendation." Out in the corridor, Kara plays with the razor knife. Lee walks up and Kara comments it wasn't a lot to show for a life. Lee asks her if she wonders why Kendra did it. Kara said maybe she had a lot to answer for, or maybe she had it coming. Lee says, "Well, we've all got it coming." Kara then tells him that she's been reassigned to Galactica because she has a beef with their commanding officer. He keeps trying to get her killed. He asks her if she ever wondered if she deserved it. She laughs and says that she has a destiny because she had her palm read by Cylon. I love that line, by the way. She said that he stuck with her until the end. She then says she has to break in his new CAG and leaves. Lee heads off the other way. Presumably, I always thought the new CAG, by the way, was probably Captain Case. But, that's neither here nor there, but that's the little takeaway I had from it when she mentioned that. But yeah, that's pretty much the end. So, wow, what a movie.
It wasn't bad for a very rushed project, because it was a rushed project.
Really?
It was amazing.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, because as they were in mid-production of season 2, NBC Universal, wanting to jump on the DVD side of things, wanted to have a special release in between the box sets that were being released at the time, and asked Ronald D. Moore if he could put together another feature thing for them to release independently to increase sales. And they were already in the midst of I think midway through shooting the Pegasus 3-parter, and that's when they started to bring in everybody else for this show. And I think he wrote it in a few weeks. And it does kind of show, because it's beautifully done, and everything is, all the flashbacks are very compartmentalized. So
yeah,
you could watch each flashback independently and be completely satisfied. But it also kind of screws around with the pacing a little bit as they start learning new information about what's actually happening in the present, which we addressed earlier with Cameron when he was here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, given the budget constraints, the time they had, and being able to utilize all the cast members they were able to get into, including Michelle Forbes, who only was really on there for those 3 episodes, really, and then they just shot her stuff around the rest. They pulled off one heck of a feat, and it's quite impressive for what they had. And if I bet if they got, say, more than like a few weeks notice and were given for several months to really refine this story, it probably would have been not just a TV event, probably would have gone to theaters at that time.
Yeah, go ahead, Culture.
No, I was going to say, and it would have done actually pretty well, because at the time the show was really on the upswing with the audience. It was more than just the little clutch of people that were watching it in the first season. So I think it would have performed very well. It might have blown the TV up even larger than it already had been. So,
well, it would have been the first time that I can recall since the 60s Batman, where a television series managed to get a theatrical companion film while it was still airing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember at the time, man, this was in the time when word was starting to spread like wildfire for the show. So you had
a year after Star Wars finished its prequel trilogy. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for them to really bank on it if they had more time.
Yeah, and you had a lot of buzz around this fandom back then, because I remember, as I was telling you guys earlier, the old forums were exploding, and I can tell you from the fandom side of things, my God, our membership signups every day, our numbers were crazy about this time. And then when Razor aired, I mean, people just went nuts over it, because like the whole Kara tidbit that was thrown in and everything else. we were just like, damn, wow.
The name of the director of this was Felix Enrique Alcala, I think.
Yeah, well,
and
the writer matters more than the director in this one.
Well, this again, it's a TV director type of thing.
He's got a lot of stuff on his belt. His first episode he directed was Lois and Clark, season 1, episode 12. He directed stuff from ER. He directed stuff from NYPD Blue.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of stuff. He directed Fire Down Below, a Steven Seagal movie from '97. I mean, he's a well-rounded director. He directed an episode of Breaking Bad. He directed an episode of the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yeah.
He directed an episode of Burn Notice. He's well-rounded.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this was, like I said, this was a very, big period for the fandom because fandom was growing exponentially. This was starting to be talked about as one of the best shows on television. And I really think like season 3 was the culmination when they acknowledged that, yeah, it indeed was the best show on television, but it was almost right there when this came out, and no surprise that the fandom gobbled this up like Halloween candy. And
I didn't, Drew. I didn't gobble it up. I didn't even know it existed. I totally passed it, then watched it a week ago and was like, yay.
Nice. But yeah, this was a big one, and I thought this was a phenomenal movie. I thought that it was well acted. I thought it was well written, well directed. Hey, props to Drew, aka Mr. E, the Captain Love. Good to see you, buddy.
Oh hey.
Yeah, but this was Razor was unique. It was well directed, well written, everything across the board. And I thought that this had everything a fan could want in it. And probably, if I was going to put a score on it, for me personally, this is probably a 10 out of 10 because this is one of my favorites. I mean, this is one of the things I really enjoy just going back and watching, even in just a standalone watch. So, yeah, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I might be a little biased because it's one of my favorites, but hey, it is what it is. It's 10 out of 10 in my book. So, all right, we'll go around and get a quick score and let everybody tell you where they can find them because we're on the end of wrapping up here. So we'll start with Elaine.
Well, thank you. Well, this was a fun time as always. I think as far as rating this movie, I think probably an 8. And I'm not a fan of like prequels and like flashback sequences, especially. But it was just so well done in this. It all served a purpose, and I loved how they added the nostalgia elements in it that actually meant something significant. So that was really neat, and I just so well written and such depth to these characters, and it really it added to it and expanded on it in a really nice, meaningful way. So I appreciate that in using those elements. So yeah, and you can find me at Nerd Cookies. I do sci-fi and fantasy and Lord of the Rings as far as news and lore. So yeah, come check it out. Thank you so much, Drew.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being on the panel as always and bringing your expert analysis and just your bubbly personality to the table. I always love having you on this panel. SD.
Yeah, so I thought this was a really fun movie. Fits right in line with the show, and the quality definitely holds up with the three-parter from Pegasus, which was like the peak of this season. So that was, I mean, it's a great watch. It's something that you should see as part of your viewing or binging of Battlestar Galactica. It's quite a fun character piece, and it also gives you a little bit of extra story with what's going on with the series, and I highly recommend it. As for content, well, I'm currently working on the episode 5 review of the Lower Decks, so expect that in a few days, and you can watch that over on youtube.com/scriptdoctor. And yeah, you can find me here every Thursday talking with this wonderful panel about Battlestar Galactica, and see what other sort of live streams I'll be on by following my Twitter at ScriptDoctorPhD.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Oh, it was great having you, and your banter with Cameron was legendary. You guys like messed.
Oh, we barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, you guys messed up like I thought you would. So, all right, Steven.
Did he freeze?
You don't read the private chat very often. Let Bear go.
I don't think he's looking at this,
Am I
at this
frozen?
part of the window at all.
Yeah, he doesn't see it.
Oh, okay.
Go, Bear.
Go, Bear.
I will unmute first before I start talking. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not start talking. I looked first. Well, you can catch me at Bear Nerd Fun, and as the fourth wave mascot named me, Ghost Bear. I am Ghost Bear, and you will catch us on the late edition, and Wes and Final Death Star, and occasionally Steven stops in, and Tommy stops in, and we just like to have a good time. We talk about Star Trek, we talk about sci-fi, and sometimes we talk about the things that go bump in the night. Catch us there on Saturday, and we now have a Friday show that we're doing, and catch us Friday, and same time between 9:30 and 10. You know, I'm going to start on Bear time, you know what I'm saying? So, I want to thank the chat and thank the panel. You guys are awesome. You're great. And we will see you next time. And much love to all of you. Hail.
Yep. All right. Culture Casino.
Oh, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Honestly, guys, this is probably one of those that you should definitely see. And I rank this right about, I don't know, about 8.5 to a 9. I'm somewhere, I always fall in between those two. This is television at its most refined form, and I enjoyed this just as much as I did probably the 3 best episodes of this year. So just keep that in mind. And of course, I am Culture Casino here. Let me do the camera thing. Oh, hey, I am Culture Casino. I have a YouTube channel. I am often here with my friends doing things on other channels, which I enjoy immensely. If you don't check out Bear's audio creations, you should visit his channel and check out the songs he makes. You should check out everything Drew does on Bounding into Comics. He is a very gifted journalist and does very well with the words. And of course, Nerd Cookie's Dune knowledge is outstripped my own. She's amazing at covering the content that she has on her channel, and she's grown exponentially because of it. And of course, the Script Doctor, boy, if recently Script has been hitting the ball out of the park with his Lower Decks reviews, so make sure you check those out. And of course, the incredibly talented and very loquacious, there's a big word for you, author Stephen Walton, who goes out of his way to pump up everybody in the fandom menace with amazing monologues that makes you feel like you just went to church, the church of the popular culture. And on that note, I hope you subscribe to everybody here, because I certainly do. Have a great night, guys.
All right. So, Steven, before I pull this up, what do you think score wise?
Nerd Cookies out of 10. It was very good. It was double-licious. I loved the whole movie. It was, like I said, it was nice seeing it, having not seen it before. So it was like a gift, you know. It was like a hidden episode. I thought it was wonderfully done. I loved the character of Kendra. The actress did a great job working around all these established characters within this lore. I loved the little I just love the little nods to old Battlestar, from the sound of the Cylon speaking to the reference to the A-Team to, just everything about the base star. That was kind of both the new and the old put together, but I really enjoyed it. So excellent, 10 out of 10, no doubt. So this is the promo for the Phantom Menace Volume 2. Rise of the Rebellion, which will be coming out in a few weeks, and I'll let you guys know when the release date is happening, when the Indiegogo goes up. But I worked on this, and I hope that y'all enjoy it. I hope, you know what, and honestly, not only do I hope the fans enjoy it, but I hope the founders of this consumer advocacy group enjoy it as well.
The main thing is to protect these characters. Make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them. And that the universe of Star Wars continues to grow.
By 2018, far-left extremists in Hollywood had been perverting long-established global science fiction properties as platforms to espouse divisive social propaganda. The vision of these creatives was to repurpose established franchises in the hopes of indoctrinating viewers into the bigoted groupthink of the American far-left ideology. Insanely wealthy producers and adult pretenders set to shame any fan who would not capitulate to their false narratives of virtue, using long-established weight in the legacy media to drive online hate mobs to attack any who dared speak against the woke narrative. Yet there were those who would not kneel before this oligarchy of money, media, and extremism. Those who had known the truth. Fandom is for everyone. The Phantom Menace Volume 2 covers the events of the year 2018 as a group of independent creators rose up together, inspiring the Star Wars fandom to speak out against the flagrant misuse of a property that was not meant to inspire division, but hope. Volume 2 will cover the voices who spoke out against cancel culture, such as The Gospel According to Mark with a C.
Thank God for Star Wars fans. If only Rian Johnson had said the same thing.
Mecha Random 42.
Star Trek, to me, is a hopeful, optimistic view of the future.
With chapters written by Stephanie Janicek, Smuggler's Cantina.
They're not answering any questions that the real fans want to know.
Jesse Milestone of Mindless Entertainment.
And I'm going to warn you right now, this here thing you're about to watch is probably going to involve a lot of yelling and a decent amount of swearing.
And the Overlord himself, Dictor Van Doomcock.
Greetings, my friends. Our pop culture is under assault by corporations who would rather destroy our cultural heritage than build respectfully upon it.
This is an historical documentation of a group of people in the late 2000 teens who would not bow to the very worst in humanity, seeking to separate us along political lines while using our beloved modern mythologies to do so. They did not kneel. Will you? The Phantom Menace Volume 2, Rise of the Rebellion. There it goes.
Ooh,
I wonder who the editor is for that book.
I wonder who he is. I'll be sending you chapters, man. I've been working on it like crazy.
Yep.
As long as it wasn't the one that did Steven's favorite bounding into comics article.
Dr. Kathy Jeremy still looks gay. Well,
that did throw me off too. That's Gary. Yeah.
Well, that's when it started. I mean, a lot of the quotes that I pull from him are a few, but they're from back then. So I thought it was only right
from
to
before
show
the beard.
Yeah, before the beard, when he first started out, when he was this little tiny channel.
Yeah.
Hey now.
Hey, Moira, good to see you, and good to see you, Tox. And John Willis, he's been on fire all night with the comments.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. You had a lot to offer the panel, and so did Roof Korean, as always. You know, Roof Korean always, every week, brings it strong. He is like the extra panelist, because he just he's the chat guy that is like the extra panelist. And you know, Roof Korean, I hope you know how much we appreciate you, dude.
Roof Korean makes me laugh in a bad way every time I see his avatar. Love you.
But yeah, the editor of the Phantom Menace Volume 2. Yeah, I kind of know the guy.
I hope so. You have him in your basement. Looks like you.
Yeah.
He's got a chain around his leg.
I am looking forward to, I've been a friend of Drew's for almost 2 years now, and I've been reading his work for just as long, bounding into comics, and he also has another website that he's working on, Sickest of All. I have every confidence in Drew to help me. He has the same passion. He is Fandom Menace to the core, and that doesn't denote value on anybody. I don't care if you carry a hashtag or not. But for these volumes, I need someone who's going to work with me, who feels that passion, who feels the passion of our modern mythologies, the hope, the inspiration that they once gave us, as opposed to the people who have been running these properties into the ground. I need someone with that same fierce need to protect the nostalgia, the history, the very cultural fabric that these properties have given us, have woven into us, the hopeful outlook to the future, hope in other people. And so I'm very happy to have Drew Taylor on this team. I can't wait to, we've already been working on stuff. He's already got material from me. I can't wait to keep doing that and present that material to all of you. I'm hoping that books will be in hands by January of 2021.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'm excited.
That's what we're shooting for. So, yep, keep an eye and ear out, folks, because as soon as we've got things together rolling, and you'll see the campaign rolling out soon, it's going to be fun times, man. You guys are going to have some great reading material to look forward to. So keep an eye and ear out.
These books are historical documentation. One of the things I'm going to have fun with explaining to people is that one of the criticisms I got about Volume 1 was, why am I going to read a book about a bunch of YouTubers? Well, Volume 1 wasn't a book about a bunch of YouTubers. It was about the foreground. It was, or the background. It was what led up to 2018, why the backlash of The Last Jedi, Star Trek Discovery, BBC Doctor Who, under Chris Chibnall meant so much to so many people. So this volume 2, is a book about a bunch of YouTubers. And it's also a book about Kathleen Kennedy's woke audience, the direction that these properties took, people that stalked Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver. Goes over the Kelly Marie Tran incident. And then in contrast, whereas with the Kelly Marie Tran being bullied off social media, being an obvious a propaganda tale that was just told over and over again, lied about over and over again, with no basis in fact, no evidence to support this, not even from the actress herself, who turned and blamed her experiences in Hollywood as being more racist than anything. We're going to have a look at the Raylos and some of the activity that they took part in, and stalking activity, wishing for Adam Driver's kid to be, to leave this world so that it could facilitate their forced on-screen romance in the real world. It's a lot of material in there too, but I really felt that it was important to go over some people in our community, our very diverse community, a word that most of us don't say too often because we just don't need to. Fandom has always been all-inclusive. And so by showing examples of people like Jesse, Mecca, Mark, Stephanie, and Kiri Morning's also involved. So there's a little piece that I'm going to have in one of my chapters of her declaration of being in the Star Wars fandom as a transgender woman, and really not understanding the ideology that's infected these entertainments and her perspective on it as a Star Wars fan. So I'm looking forward to presenting all that material to you guys, and of course, getting to read Dictor Van Doomcock, the wordsmith that he is. I'm sure his chapter will be the shining light in the whole thing.
Yep. It's going to be great, so keep an eye and ear out for that, folks. And make sure that also during the week catch us on Bounding into Comics Live on Wednesday. I'm on that panel along with my esteemed colleagues, our editor-in-chief, John F. Trent, usually Spencer Bakuli, the anime reporter that we have, and there's always myself and Don Edmonds. So, Bounding Live is a fun time on Wednesday, and also Sundays we do a Twitch stream for Bounding into Comics on our Twitch channel, and usually I play Dead by Daylight on there with the guys, so make sure that you catch that broadcast and start following us on Twitch, because we do need some Twitch followers, so hook us up. But, yep, you can catch me on Twitter at Supreme Heretic, and hey, take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks to the chat. You guys and gals were awesome tonight. You guys slayed it in chat, and you are indeed the reason that we do this. Without you, there is no us. There is no content creation. You are the best chat on YouTube. Thank you.
So say we all.
Yes.
So say we all.
Take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.